What's up, everybody? This is Carrick with ACG, and I'm here with Johnny and Silver for the Best Gaming Podcast, number 475. We are going to sit back and talk about the Sony State of Play, as well as some other news that happened this week. Maybe some ideas of some DLC that I've been seeing coming for some games here in the future, as well as any of your user questions. Thanks, as always, to anybody who watches, gets a chance, jump in and sort of see us as we discuss video games. First off, we don't always do this, but I'm going to do it today. What are you guys playing? Let's start with Johnny. What have you been jumping into?
Played it this week. Finished it. I thought it was pretty cool. We already talked a little bit about it. My feelings haven't changed much. I thought the structure of the tails around the giants and everything was a cool way to make a game. You know, gave it a nice structure. I didn't think the overarching narrative was anything that exciting or, you know, touching particularly. I thought the first one was a bit more impactful, but overall fun time. I experienced it a little bit like a Telltale game, but without the choices and with great graphics. So it's like, you know, you give and take in places, but overall, yeah, the setting and everything was really nice.
Did you think when you were playing it, did you have higher hopes for the story, or and what did you think of the story for the first?
Yeah, I thought the first one was a bit more impactful for me, especially when it came to a close and that themes like pops in the end, the theme song, and it's like, you know, kind of the whole journey reverberates in your head a little bit. This one was a little bit like, oh, okay, we're done, you know, and just moving on straight away. It didn't really impact me in a big way. I think more the immersion, the moment to moment was the highlight, and the story as a whole didn't stick with me.
Why do you, why is there any reason why? Because I found that the story did stick with me, but I guess I also say the first one was better because story-wise, because just of how it sort of thrusts you into this brand new world. Was it just more of Senua kind of thing?
I didn't see a lot. I did like that, you know, the voices change a little bit and they are a bit on your side at times, which is cool.
That was cool. Yeah.
I like that. But yeah, the overarching plot, I don't feel like nothing was brought home by the game in a way. Like, you know, the plot with her and Dillian and her home and all, like she being cursed and everything. I don't feel like any of that was brought to a close, to a satisfying, like, we've progressed, or like something has
actually occurred versus just sort of her adventuring through this.
Yeah, area. More like an adventure. Yeah.
I get that. Silver, have you played it?
Yeah, I have.
What did you think?
I haven't finished it though.
Oh, let's not say too much. But go ahead.
No, I don't mind. But I have. I mean, I think one thing it probably did. The sequel that I think really enjoyed was, I think it blurs the lines even more between like what is real and what is in your mind.
Right.
Or sort of the perception of it, particularly through the audio. I mean, there are the voices you hear that talk directly to Senua, but you also have a lot of moments where you hear what seems to be external voices, people screaming or calling for help or whatever it is. And you don't know if those are reliable, if those are real, or if they're just figments of Senua's imagination or her subconscious. I think that is an area that they really expanded on. In the sequel, at least it felt that way to me, and that for me really worked up to the point where I currently am in the game. Certainly,
yeah, I like the unreliable narrator as well, because especially dude, you know, she has visions, but de facto visions that aren't based on what we normally see are always questionable. Right. So I never knew. I was like, is she having visions, and what I'm seeing of her is really what's going on, or is it just her interpretation of what's going on? Should I question what I'm seeing, or should I just
there's a
agree?
constant second guessing of the information you're absorbing,
Right.
and having to run it through like a filter
Right.
and analyze it.
I'm gonna let my dogs out. Johnny, what else have you been playing after that? And then we'll jump to Silver.
Not much. I've been doing a little bit of Elden Ring, going back into it. I popped a new character in there. I want to try something a little different. I'm thinking if I can do like a fire sword type thing, that'd be really interesting. I really like the fire effect, the particle effects in that game, and I never really played around with incantations or magic in general. So I'm going to do something a little bit different and play through the campaign and kind of get ready for the DLC, get excited for it.
Right.
Do you think you're gonna play the DLC and the game?
I don't know. I might. There are just so many other things at the moment that it's kind of difficult to predict where my interests will take me, specifically in that regard. But I might. I'm open to it.
Is that all you've been playing, Johnny?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, go for it, Silver. What are you jumping into lately?
Quite a lot of American Truck Simulator, actually. Like I've been playing, getting back into it a lot. I think mainly because the Nebraska expansion pretty much just released a couple of weeks ago. They also finished their 1.5 update, which revamped California, brought in cities like Modesto, reworked San Francisco. Like California had been one of the launch states at release back like 8 years ago, so it was getting a little outdated with assets and stuff. And they've sort of gradually revamped it over 3 different patches now over the last couple of last year or so, or a year and a half. And it's been really, really good. Really nice changes. Like the game is still like it's impressive that it still looks so good. I think 8 years after, like the skyboxes in that game are like literally some of the best I've seen in video games still 8 years later.
Right.
Like it's amazing to me that a lot of these large scale open world games from Ubisoft or whoever, like their skyboxes don't really compare to like just sheer variety you get in American Truck Simulator of land, and the fact that they like the sunset and sunrise look different in California than they do over Omaha, Nebraska, or up north in Montana, where you also get northern lights and stuff. It's just nice, like the variety of landscapes and stuff you get to drive through. It's it's just a nice way to sort of chill and just kind of switch off the brain and.
How much do the DLCs cost for that, by the way? Like, what's a typical DLC cost?
So, it varies, naturally, depending on the state. So, a state like Texas is going to be considerably pricier than a smaller state. But they tend to vary between $10 and $20. So, it's not that bad. And they've actually, SCS has bundled them together so that you can buy like small clutches of them or bundles of them. They also go on sale very frequently, which is another plus. And the game itself isn't full price, the base game either, so that also helps.
And do they do like a Pacific Northwest? Well, maybe not Pacific Northwest, but do they do like a West Coast, East Coast kind of thing then, where you can buy East Coast packages or West Coast or Central packages?
East Coast isn't in the game yet. It's pretty much all been West Coast Central. They started on the West Coast and then they're gradually building their way east as expansions are coming. You also get a lot of, that's really one of the things that has impressed me the most over the past 8 years is just the support that SCS has put out for the game. And that also applies to Euro Truck Simulator, incidentally, where just continually revamping like the visuals, updating the assets, adjusting gameplay mechanics and systems, tweaking them, implementing more realistic settings and stuff over time. And doing that, and all that is done for free. And also like the stuff you buy when you buy like a state back in the day that's now 8 years old, they go back and rework it and update it to keep it in line with what is coming out now.
Right.
And they do that. That's also done for free, which you should expect. But I think it's good to see.
Yeah, it's always awesome to see a company release some of that kind of stuff for free without it being in some hacker. Some kinds of crazy stuff, or just not being done at all. That's another thing I want to talk about in a little bit is the Red Falls last patch where they added the offline mode, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Because that's a company that's, I mean, not around anymore.
Its way out, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. For me, anything else that you've been playing?
Just the usual stuff. Total War, Warhammer 3, Hellblade 2 as well.
You're getting some gaming in, though. I've noticed you back in it. Were you out of gaming for a little while? It feels like you're playing more than you played in the past, or am I just... Maybe you were playing one game.
I think there was like a period of time, like over the last couple of months, where I probably didn't have the time or energy to play quite as much as I do at the moment.
I've been playing. I played some more Destiny with the guys in chat in the Discord. We had a big, group of us jumping in there. That was enjoyable. Watched a lore video on Destiny, which is so funny that you still have to go technically outside of that game to get any story that is cohesive at all. So I jumped into that, played around with that, playing an NDA game for a review, a couple of them. It's a pretty dead time, so it's been fun to jump into stuff. I was originally going to jump in, and do some, I don't know what kind of video, but I started looking at it, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and, I mean, there's some other videos I could do. I released the June game video early, so I haven't been doing a bunch of YouTube video creation. It's been more playing games for review and doing a couple betas. And then, yeah, Destiny has been a blast. And then I did some Assassin's Creed Odyssey for reasons I have no clue. I jumped back into that, probably because of the Shadows discussion. And really have been trying to look at some of the old games maybe I missed, and then just watching what people in chat have been playing. Like, it's always interesting to... Is that your cat, Johnny? Just
it is the shadow, you mean?
No, the meow. There's
no,
a
the
meow
meowing,
that just keeps going.
Yeah, Basil. We can hear him.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's all right. I was just wondering if that
buddy.
was... Yeah, and it wasn't like a background video where you have cats meowing because it makes you feel comfortable. They're just... Find out Johnny's got a video of just meow, 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 meow. But yeah, it's been fun to sort of watch what other people have been playing, and found a couple games I wasn't prepared for, wasn't exactly expecting to see. So it's been an open week for me, more open than it has been in the past.
Oh, yeah.
So let me ask you something, though.
I just want to say, anybody in chat, I'd like to know what you were playing. Go ahead, Johnny.
Well, you mentioned Destiny. Was there something really cool that you saw in some of the newer content you hadn't experienced until now? Like whether it's a raid or, some of the lore you were talking about?
The real reason I jumped into this is because of the changes they're making, and I need to know what it felt like prior to discuss what it feels like now as
like
somebody.
The final
right, and
expansion.
When you're an expert at something and you're talking in there with somebody else, sometimes you can get this circular, like sort of like a yes man group or whatever. And I definitely am not that person. I'm definitely have gone away from Destiny. So the idea of jumping back in is somewhat of a returning back to see what it's like, and then jumping back in once it's done to be able to say, as somebody who isn't as cognizant of every little idiosyncrasy, because that game has a very high technical discussion that goes on that doesn't, I don't think, reflect 99% of people who may play it at one point or another, or who want to play it with this update, because the update is sort of being suggested it's for brand new people. It's sort of like, well, not brand new people. That's completely wrong. I mean, it's being suggested that it may be more edible for newcomers than, the past. They're putting things together, and then they're also rewarding long-term players. So it's positive on both ends. I just want to see what it's like. When it comes to enjoyment, the one thing I got from this, Johnny, is, damn, there's some shit raids. And some shit strikes. The amount of fun we had in a row was actually very chopped off. So we'd go into a strike and be like, dude, this strike, this strike rocks. This is a great strike. Then the next one or two strikes were like, oh, it's poor in all ways. All this running, barely any shooting, no matter what. It just didn't feel right. And you can tell this is all content from years of expansions. So that was fun to see the difference. You could actually tell where they grew too. You can even tell what they thought was important in what year versus the next, you know what I mean? So that was all very fun. And that's not even to diss on Destiny. Anybody who likes Destiny will tell you straight up that is quite literally how it works. And with a lot of games, when you have tons of maps, some maps are not popular. So that was really fun. But no, nothing got me into it any more than just this update. And I've had a really good time. Luckily, I've got some people in there who help me. Always good. I sort of need that to remind me of what does this thing do versus what it did the last time I played it 2 years. Brandon Martin's been a member for 3 months. Thank you. Anybody who doesn't know, if you become a member, you can also jump in the Discord, stream with us. We do some behind-the-scenes talk. We've been doing Inside Baseball Gamer Talk for a while. We invite people from other channels in there and do that inside of the Patreon/Discord. Well, Brandon Martin says, hey, guys, I linked my Activision account with Call of Duty, and they gave me $75 of COD points to spend. I guess I'm buying that Fallout skin. Forgot there's a Fallout skin. That's an odd thing. I didn't even know that they did that, and I don't know if mine's linked. Now that I'm not quite sure. Streven, welcome to being a member. Thank you very much, Streven. Pentagon Fortress says, I love the original raid with the Emperor. Just love having to work as a team. Yeah, some of those can be great, for sure. Make sure, please make sure you understand. I think a lot of that game has some great parts. Just piecemeal. I'm excited for Destiny 3, man. I'm excited for them to get this out, see the changes, and then finally have a game where the lore's in the game, Unless they do a website again, like they did when that game first released, and they're like, go here to find data. So let's talk about the Sony State of Play now. No, go for it.
Sorry, just take a...
No,
because I did forget, but you kind of reminded me when you mentioned watching other people's play. I have been playing, I managed to play Ghost of Tsushima as well, and actually uploaded, for those who are interested, daily videos, daily Let's Plays.
On Silver Hawkins?
On my
YouTube?
channel, yeah, for anyone
Excellent.
interested.
Are you doing PC version?
Yeah, PC version, black and white, Kurosawa mode on lethal difficulty.
Excellent. So basically like the old movies. That's them. That's your channel.
Like the Kurosawa movies, yeah.
Very cool.
Also with Japanese dub, yeah.
Jeez. So you're making it watchable to 3 people on all the net. Good job.
Yes,
good job, Silver.
exactly.
Make sure you're as unpopular as possible.
That's exactly the point, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome, though. Yeah, so if you guys get a chance, Silver Hawkins on YouTube, you can go and watch the black and white, super hard, Japanese subbed with English subs, I'm assuming. You do have English subs on,
yes,
so at least people know it.
I do have the subtitles in it.
As you just tell people to figure it out themselves.
Yeah.
So moving on from there, looking at the state of play. So this thing, I don't know, Johnny, we talked about, we all did, talked about this earlier, but it's like, you should never get your hopes up for these. And it obviously, apparently, like just looking at the response, a bunch of people did. And I don't know why they do. I think it's more just like, hey, here's some games. But if you look at it from, hey, here's some games, even that was pretty rough. And I don't, there were some things I was hoping that I would see and I didn't. Some things I saw and I actually liked more than others, apparently. But these events, I don't know, guys, like, I'm a big fan of the events. I like these smaller events, these monthly or every other month. But at the same time, when your first 5-6 minutes is a cutscene not even made by the game company, but made by a trailer company, and then it cuts over to this game that doesn't look like anything like the trailer, that's more of a CGI issue, right? Where you should just stop using CGI. It started off on a bad foot when it comes, and that was Concord, so anybody knows. I like the design that's Ragnarok, Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy, personally. But I did also see a lot of people who weren't a fan of that. So, like, when you saw Concord, turns out to be Overwatch-style kind of game, whatever. It's not probably going to interest you guys very much, but was there anything about it that was positive or anything that you came away from that first, that was almost, what was that, 1/8 of the entire show? But was there anything on there?
I think for me, the biggest problem, like you said, was the setup, because they didn't say what the game was, and they just showed the trailer. So I got excited for something like story-driven, because there were actually some, good characters in there, some good banter. It did. I was thinking back to Guardians of the Galaxy. It's kind of that vibe with the alien people and everything. And then you kind of have this Overwatch stuff. I like the customization where, you could change each hero to do different things and stuff. That seemed cool to have some depth there. But it kind of felt like the pattern of the event was we're trying to hit a quota of online multiplayer games, and this is our, we're chipping away at that. So, we're putting out 2 new multiplayer games, 2 new online multiplayer games, which almost seem interchangeable. One of them is Marvel.
Right.
And so they got some different stuff there, but kind of like the same concept for both of them.
Am I going crazy, or did the Drax guy, who also apparently is named Starchild, like that seemed, unless I'm going crazy, the big guy's name is Starchild, which is even more Guardians ripoffs instead of Star-Lord. Like I saw Starchild and I was like, that's not his name, right? Because it so looked like Guardians in that way. And then I saw the name, and then I saw the Drax-looking guy. I just call him Drax-looking. Let's be honest, he's not complete that, but comparisons. But yeah, there was a definite feeling of like, yeah, here's our service game. We need to, because we do know that they have a bunch being built. So I thought the customization, in any game there's customization, but what I saw looked like it might be enjoyable. What about you, Silver? Was there any, anything about? I know it's not your bailiwick.
I thought it looked good for what it was, but it's not a genre that has any interest or engagement with me. So, I thought, like the gameplay and stuff looked fine, looked like it could be fun, but yeah, it's just not. And I did have, it's funny because I did have warning bells, immediately, as the trailer went on and they started talking about stealing stuff. I went, oh, this is exactly what it is. And lo and behold, when the gameplay trailer came around, that was exactly what it was. So yeah, it's not a game that engages me, but it is a genre that has engaged people. I didn't play Overwatch either because that didn't engage me either. But maybe it'll be able to fill that spot. That spot has kind of faded since Overwatch. Maybe it'll get revitalized. That happens, but.
And maybe because Overwatch 2 hasn't exploded because of their issues, maybe there's
so there would seem to be an opening, but the question is the opening there because there isn't a game to fill the demand, or is it there because the demand isn't there anymore?
Yeah, that's true. I just don't know. It definitely felt weird to me because the trailer looked like Star Wars Outlaws to me. They were like talking in a cantina kind of place, and there was all this stuff. So
I understand.
I was like, what exactly is this game? And then it went to the hero shooter part. I went from being like, that's not.
I think you can
just go ahead.
You can reasonably argue that it completely failed to do what a CG trailer should.
I would agree.
A treat to the extent you use a CG trailer, you should use it to sort of execute the vision statement for your game.
Yep.
What is like the atmosphere? What is the heart or core of what I want this game to be about? I think that's something you can use CG trailers to do effectively. And I think that's something that they completely failed to do in this regard.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Go ahead, Johnny.
And they were trying to make them sound cool, like, they had a line where they said, "This crew will take any job." That's not really a good thing. That's kind of like they would just like sell themselves for cheap and do whatever.
And it was also
they're not really.
There's a dissonance between "this crew will take any job" and the gameplay we saw, which doesn't look like crews taking jobs at all.
Yeah, true.
But that's because we haven't seen enough. So it's like we will definitely, and this is something Microsoft has had a boatload of issues with, and third-party companies have, less so Nintendo, but it also could be that they just have as many, and I don't track their cuts, their CGI stuff. I think Nintendo has a tendency to show more gameplay a lot of times for the games, at least I'm interested in right away. But yeah, with this one, it was just one of those moments of dissonance where we had a bunch of people in our chat, and it was going like, boo, boo, boo. People were like, oh, hey, yeah, this seems exciting. Maybe, depending on if it's like Star Wars Outlaws, which is sort of what they were showing at first, and then it just went boom. And people were like, well, even if there's a single-player mode or whatever, the gameplay itself doesn't seem to fit, and your skills with going and doing jobs. It just like, it felt like they were trying to hit a lot, and I think service games have that tendency, not even discussing Sony themselves. I think every company.
That was also a total disconnect I had with Overwatch as well, incidentally.
True. Yeah, and I know.
I think with those games too, just say like, you don't really care about the characters. Like I love some of those games. Like I love League of Legends. I couldn't give a crap about like the lore, who dated whom in the in the backstory. Like I have no interest. So the whole premise of trying to sell you on the characters by delivering cutscenes every now and then and expanding the lore, and so that to me is just a non-starter because it's going nowhere. The gameplay has no connection with what you're seeing, like you said. So nothing that I see in the cutscene will augment the game in a way, because they're totally just disconnected in my head.
You know what it reminds me of is Shadows got shown finally and data got out, and then like a week later on Ubisoft or whatever, they did some blog and they said they were like, oh, so just so you know, both characters can romance different people in the game. And I'm like, of all the things I need to know about in Assassin's Creed, that couldn't be I mean, that is like the low, like why, I mean, where are we where that's what we talk about versus the stuff that everybody who's interested can certainly, that is an interest, but it is nowhere near as high as all the other stuff we've been asking and trying to find out. And it's like, oh yeah, you both can romance people. Great. Okay, whatever. But let's talk more about the things that you guys really seem to even want to talk about, which is your seasons and stuff. And that it's happening with a lot of these games where they're trying to, where these events happen. And the big thing about E3 was nice in one way, because it was like everybody was waiting. And so that event happened, and it was your biggest and your best. And now these events happen, which I love the idea of, but you really have to lower your expectations. You have to be like, okay, it's down here. It's sort of like aim at something that's a little bit in the middle.
PSVR level.
Yeah.
Like,
well, we're going to talk about PSVR because that had some interesting stuff. Let's move on to God of War Ragnarok PC. So it's not the same company that did Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon, what I understand. It's a company that helped port something else and has done a lot of engineering work. But what I saw looked exactly what I was hoping for. God of War PC, unlocked frame rate. They did the little thing that they always do. They tell you the technical stuff that this is going to offer. And I'm excited to see God of War on PC, but I don't know. I would like to ask a question. I feel more of a draw to play Horizon on PC when it came out, or Ghost. I do not have a desire to play God of War, and I'm not quite sure why, because I loved God of War Ragnarok. But there's no desire to get that one, really, at least right now. Do you guys have a desire? Am I the only one? I mean, do you guys actually want, is this a big deal? Get this on PC for you, either one of you guys?
For me, yeah.
Okay.
It could be. I don't know that I will get it, but there is definitely an appeal there in the higher frame rate and stuff for that game's combat. Like that game's combat system definitely benefits from a higher frame rate, I think.
That's true. That's a good point. That is a good point.
Widescreen, and it's a combat system that I greatly enjoy. So,
yeah. Did you like Ragnarok or the first one better? I can't remember.
I probably liked the first one better. It felt more focused, I think, in some. But you know, I don't honestly remember. Right? I think they were pretty equal for me. In that regard, they felt very similar.
Yeah, I would agree. Pentagon Fortress says maybe because of the unique art style of Ghost or amazing graphics Horizon. I think God of War Ragnarok has amazing graphics. I think it's probably that one's linear, and those two are just a little bit more.
I think maybe it's also just that the idea of like playing Horizon with a mouse and keyboard.
True. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That is actually a very good point.
Where God of War does sort of naturally fit with the gamepad.
Yeah, or fits at least better, especially because the finesse aiming is nowhere near what it is or could be on Horizon. Yeah, that's a good point. What about you, Johnny? Any thoughts on God of War? Ragnarok?
Well, I really liked the game. I did think it had some pacing problems where, some parts of the story, they just like indulged a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're just going to hang out here in this little side thing for a very long time. So I did, and I think it's a game I don't really want to play twice in a way.
Okay.
Whereas a game like Horizon, a lot of it was about just exploring the world, and that's something I'm okay doing a second time, or like exploring stuff I didn't initially. God of War was mostly about enjoying the story for me and going through that. Having done it already, I don't know if I want to do it again. I think both Ghost and Horizon have an element of just the world itself being a draw more than Ragnarok does.
I'll also say I am such a huge fan of all the actors in God of War Ragnarok that I know the cutscenes aren't the draw, obviously, but they're some of my favorite actors that have been in this new one that I may end up just watching somebody play it to see their acting again in those parts versus the fun time I had. 'Cause I had a glorious time playing it. But those kind of games I don't really jump back into very often, especially if they're that, you know how God of War, it's not open, it's not even hub, it's like open trail. There's like left, right. It's almost like, weirdly enough, a League of Legends game where you've got like left, middle, and right trail, but they all go to the same. Yeah, they got lanes.
Yeah.
And by the way, I love that in the first experience. I adore it. But then in the later experiences, I've noticed less so than hub or open world. They draw me a little. So yeah, it's one of those things where you're not always quite sure how it's going to hit. I asked everybody in chat what they thought. It looks like the linear thing is coming up, and everybody really seems to have liked it originally. But another thing Fitness Mad brought up that I do agree with, PS5 version of Ragnarok was really good. And I do have to admit that when I see, like, it was really good. I felt that it was awesome, and maybe the technical gulf between PC and PlayStation 5 with God of War Ragnarok was a little lower. So I feel like I'm not missing as much, without that jump.
Yeah, that's true. We already had a performance mode, right, in PS5, for 60.
Believe. Yeah, right. Yeah. They had this. God, that's been a while.
I think so. I think that's how I played it,
and it just looked sweet. Also, I should point out for everybody, moving forward, yes, every PlayStation game requires the full PSN account. The way it is, all these games do. So the Helldivers thing has been sorted, at least in their mess up, but that requirement hasn't gone away. It's been added. It's added for all these games going forward. They do require an account merge. What's up, Lucitin? Good evening to you as well. Streven, upgraded membership to premium members. What's up, Streven? Thank you very much, as always, for being a member of the channel. I appreciate everything. If you guys get a chance, thumb this up or comment on the actual video itself. It does help hugely as we figure out how we're going to handle the podcast, if we're going to go to another channel or not. I got to figure out old YouTube algorithm. I keep putting it off because I keep hoping it'll all get fixed. Will. Doc Brewski says Sony's throwing away sales for pumping up PSN, and that's sweet data. That's less so data, and it's more so that, well, it is data for sure, but they want those nations, man. It's not stopping here. And if the game is available and requires a PSN account now, they can add nations later, countries later, and that PSN account requirement is already there, and they can get you in to buy other stuff. And you can bet your ass Ghost of War PC is going to be an ad on that PSN account when you log into God of War. You're going to go in and play God of War, and you're going to like Alt Tab or whatever opens up that the PSN little mini window, and they're going to start saying, hey, we see that you're really liking God of War. Guess what? God of War 1 is on sale for, whatever. Ghost of War, is that what I called it? Love the games.
The old Ubisoft nudges. Oh, you haven't
Yep.
played in 3
Hey,
weeks.
hey.
Well,
I got a
yeah.
nudge last night, by the way. So listen to this. I died. I was taking on a guy that was powerful. I was being stupid. And I was pushing and pushing. I finally died. And guess what happened, man? I got like 3 loading screens in Valhalla when it was Odyssey, when it was resetting. And I don't get this very often. And I don't know if it only comes up. I'm assuming this is prompted. And it said, there are ways you can go to the store and get double XP or something. Like that little pop-up that was like, hey, buddy, if you suck, blah, blah, blah. But I was
like, playing Ghost, I had forgotten that the game, like, continually, if you die like 5 times or something, it'll ask you, are you sure you want to do this mission? And it won't stop asking.
Oh, really?
Like, no, yeah. Every
Doesn't
time you die, it'll ask.
Lower the difficulty or something?
No, it offers just to end the mission, so that you can go out and do something else and try or whatever, level up or whatever, and then come back and play it later.
Yeah,
like it just goes. Are you really sure you want to play this mission? Because you're dying a lot.
Love the game's $2 super chat is asking. Normally, I wouldn't read this right in the middle of our discussion, but I will this time. He says, "What's everyone's first video game crush?" I'm assuming he means romantic crush. I don't have any yet. But what's the first time you guys saw a character and you thought, how about this? It doesn't even have to be romantic crush, but like when you saw a character, I don't know if the word attraction would, charisma even. What's the first game where you saw a charismatic character? Where like their character on the screen was charismatic enough that you were drawn to them? Has that ever happened even? If it hasn't, that's fine too.
Maybe Kate Archer for No One Lives Forever.
Oh, dude. No One Lives Forever, 1 and 2. Kate Archer is actually charismatic and the de facto, like, somewhat sexy character. That's true. That's a good point. Maybe that's mine. Natasha from Road Rash. I don't remember Road Rash, but the name and crush just
don't remember the characters from it.
Yeah, either do I. I remember the gameplay.
Dude, that's
hang on with jumps and lots of crashes. What about you, Johnny? First crush, probably like Tifa?
I haven't had many. I mean, Tifa was just a bundle of like geometric shapes. So
true.
I don't know.
We should be clear.
Just text. Yeah, there wasn't a lot to her at the time. So I liked the idea of the character a lot.
Right.
But it was all in my head in a way, I think Detroit Become Human had a character I really liked who was called North. It was a character you could romance as well. I liked her a lot, and she was very cool. She had like a cool character and stuff. So I think maybe her was the first time in a game where I was like, yeah, that's pretty awesome. And the game was also one of the first ones that had insane, like, kind of photorealistic, graphics for me that I played. I was very impressed.
Could also be Jill Valentine, because she is the master of unlocking.
She is the master of unlocking. Somebody's saying Miranda from Mass Effect. People are saying Elena from Uncharted, and I would agree. Elena and Nate's relationship is good.
Yeah.
Tifa, Tiris Flame from Golden Axe. Wow, that's a callback. She was the warrior character, right? Yeah, she was the warrior. Because it was Thunderhead or whatever was the dwarf. I don't remember the Conan ripoff, now that I think about it. Tifa from Final Fantasy VII's mentioned a couple times. Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider never worked for me, probably because the character was purposely built a certain way that I was like...
You know that Aerith was for a number of people at the time.
From Final Fantasy?
From Final Fantasy VII, yeah.
John
and
Kismore?
Of course, for many of my fellow age peers at the time, Lara Croft was a big one.
Yeah. Garrus for Calibrating My Guns. And people were also saying Miranda. Yeah, Miranda, who is in Chuck, the TV show. That actress is very, very, very pretty. And they did a weird disservice to their facial models, which we've seen before. John Sismore, welcome to being a member, and thanks for the gifted memberships. So, yeah, that's weird. I don't know if I have too much traction to get. I'm trying to think. Dreamfall, Longest Journey, Chloe, definitely up there. The first thing I want to talk about real quick before we move on from God of War and Sony, you guys saw that Sony's Herman Holst from Sony had stated that his impression or their plan for games currently is that They will be moving the service games to be day and date for both. We already knew that. PlayStation and PC, day and date, only makes sense. But that they're also, their plan is that those exclusives, which I think we all realize the timing's going to get tighter and tighter, especially as we see God of War Ragnarok versus, some older games. You're starting to see that timing get tighter. But their belief is that it will drive people to get a PlayStation for the year or 2 years of exclusivity. And I saw an immediate pushback where people are like, I don't think they understand how PC gamers work. I do get that, but I do want to say it already worked, because there's multiple people, even on our Discord, who were like 1 to 2 years exclusivity is well worth, if it's good games, their purchase of 500 over a period of time. They feel that that's worth it. But I wanted to know what you guys thought. I know we're not huge exclusive fans. We like Final Fantasies or what have you, but I don't hear you guys mention in every exclusive. But if you had a PC and don't have, let's say your console broke and PS6 comes out and there's God of War 3 and there's Ghost and there's Spider-Man, I'm trying to cover a bunch of games, and they said, all right, you have 2 years of exclusivity on the PlayStation 6 and you're currently with your current PCs, do you think about that purchase? If it's 500, let's say it's $500, do you think of that purchase? And anybody in chat, do you guys think of that purchase? Or do you skip it?
I would probably buy it, because I like to play stuff when it's still like there's a conversation about it, So like if we're talking about a game, I want to like have my own opinion about it too, just because I'm curious.
Right.
So it kind of like hurts me if there's something cool out there and I mean, it's privileged because I can realistically, I could afford it, right, if I needed it. But at the same time, I would probably choose to invest into it just because I like the discussion and experiencing stuff when it's fresh.
What about you, Silver?
Yeah, less because of a need to experience it fresh, I think, and more because of, I guess, an idea that 2 years is a long time. I don't know what my situation will be 2 years from now, or the likes. So there's like an immediacy there that is appealing. So for sure, like it's part of the incentive structure of, like, the exclusivity is part of the incentive structure of acquiring the system, for sure. And especially in the case of like PlayStation, where I'm not immediately attracted to like the game's ecosystem and general, I guess, platform outside of the specific games it offers.
Right.
Like I only really touch the system for those purposes.
I'm a huge fan of, like, I'm not a huge fan of exclusives. I mean, I'm okay with them, but I personally can say if I had a PlayStation, or if I had a PC and then PlayStation 6 popped up and there was a game on it, I probably would buy it too. Like, I just probably would. I don't know. It feels like that would be something I would just get, because to me, it's 2 years. Like, I may not be alive in 2 years if if it's $500
exactly.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And
a lot of stuff can happen in 2 years.
A lot of stuff can happen, including the lack of it getting ported for whatever reason. What if it doesn't do great, but I really wanted to play it, and that company is not going to be around because, for whatever reason. I do also think that the PlayStation 6 in particular probably have 60 FPS modes for everything, or be very close to it. And at that point, then you're getting closer to the situation of like, hey, the drop isn't as drastic as it was at one time, and jumping into those. If somebody says, here's a Spider-Man 3, and as a big Spider-Man fan of the games, I mean, it would be hard for me to not want to play it. And that's not me as a reviewer. That's me as a person. I really do. I mean, God of War, the next one I'm going to want to play. It also depends on what they are. If they change to other titles as their exclusive drivers for a while, because it does take them years to make a game, there's a possibility that my answer would change. Maybe I would be like, oh, these exclusives aren't pulling me in just currently, which is what we heard with the Xbox for a while. Some people weren't into a Forza, they had the PlayStation. They were like, I'm happy with what I have. Makes perfect sense, I think. I sort of dig the option, but I also do feel that there's no way that exclusivity window is not going to get shorter. It just
No, I agree.
right. They're looking at that money and they're all
Yeah. I mean,
you know,
Helldivers has to sort of
yeah, and shows them that
recalibrate that
right
priority.
in the single player games. If they have a co-op mode of any kind, if they have a online mode of any kind, like a Spider-Man with co-op mode or something, you can bet your ass they're going to look at place or PC and go, we sort of want to be there.
I mean, also not just Helldivers. I mean, pretty much every platform PC port they've made has been a huge success. So
yeah, I think
yeah.
Last of Us Remaster was the only. Wasn't that on PC or whatever? Wasn't there a really bad port? I think it was that one that was the really bad port.
It was like technically, yeah, but in terms of sales, it still sold well, I think.
Yeah, and they fixed it up so it ended up being well received after the fact, like, you know, kind of like turned around.
It also depends on what they're making, because when you look at these games on PlayStation, what they sell, it dwarfs beyond all imagination the PC, probably because people are going to play it on the PlayStation. But they're still doing well for them. I think they had 57,000 concurrent or whatever. And while that doesn't seem like a lot compared to some of the numbers we've been hearing lately, you know, like a Manor Lords or whatever, depending on their port cost, you know, that might be more than enough. I think there was one estimate that they had already sold 500,000, but then, you know, we don't know, again, what the port cost is. It seems like Nixie's has a nail on the ports. The question for me is, will God of War Ragnarok nail it? I think that's the other, because this is a different company. So I want to see the port from them. Because I think somebody told me they did a port, but then I looked on their webpage and I was a little confused by what they said, because it sounded like they said it was just engineering support. So anybody in chat, if you know for a fact that this company that's handling God of War Ragnarok has for sure done a port.
So it's not the same as the first.
It's not.
God of War.
I don't know. I went back again. Their website was a little hedgy because they're not the premier. They're not Nixie's. So I was trying to sort of parse this while we were in the middle of the event, and it's easily possible I did miss something. You know, for sure possible. I think with PC, you also have accessibility options that'll be added by the pure definition of PC. Well, I mean, even just, yeah, true. Like, hopefully they add them, but I mean also just because of the products you have laying around that they could possibly do. So there's a higher number of people who can play it. And
ultra wide support for ABSI and two other people who have.
And the two other people who have, yeah. Next up, let's talk about Dynasty Warriors Origins. So,
yeah, it's a Dynasty Warriors game.
Yeah, that one did get me. Because I am a Dynasty Warriors fan.
He is a Dynasty Warriors fan.
All right.
And it looked like a return. It looked like a return to Dynasty Warriors after Dynasty Warriors 9.
Yeah.
Or the open world.
Was it different?
Experiment.
Was it like a different type of game?
It was. Like it was open world, kind of. They tried to do that, and it just did not work really on any level that felt engaging or fun or rewarding. Especially like the pop in and stuff that was needed to render that world.
It was just
it's
rough.
Just egregious at times. Yeah. Okay. Technically really, really rough game. I did try to get into it, even like a year and a half, I think, after its release, because I didn't get it at release because of the rough reviews and whatnot. And I figured a year and a half after, maybe they fixed some stuff, maybe it's in a better state now, and I just could not get into it. And I've been a huge Dynasty Warriors fan, I think, since Dynasty Warriors 3. I've played the series. 8 is still probably my favorite. I think it's probably the pinnacle of the series at this point. But yeah, it looked fun, man. It looked like the 1 versus 1,000 combo gameplay that makes the game so much fun, like arcadey fun. And then you sprinkle in the slight sort of historic vibes, and hopefully we get more of that.
I mean, we can point out also that, like, as a big fan of EDF, you and I are big fans of EDF. I think Johnny's played it as well.
Yeah.
I remember, in fact, that you had played it. EDF Dynasty Warriors have their place. I don't know if they have their place in people's brains at a Sony State of Play. I think that's sort of where people were a little, like, confused on why that was shown versus, say, something else. And some of these other titles were shown that really did look awesome. But yeah, it's a Dynasty Warriors game, and it looks like you said it's returning. I will just say it also looks like it hasn't advanced, if that makes sense. And there's some things about Dynasty Warriors I would love to see advanced, because I do sort of like the idea of going in and ruining 100,000 soldiers as one guy. Like, I do like the idea. It's just when you start attacking and everybody moves in the same wave, like a flock of birds, and it doesn't really, it looks older. But yeah, so there we go. Dynasty Warriors Origins. The name seems to check out as it's returning back. Then we have a game that I know Lucitan is probably excited for, maybe Johnny, and that's, what is it? Infinity Nikki, right?
Nikki.
So, what the hell is it?
It's a bubbly, cozy game that contains actual combat, apparently. Like, there's some fights and stuff.
It's like a dress-up.
Decorate your way through the world.
Very anime-inspired, very Genshin-looking at times. I thought the graphics actually looked really good at points. Boy, did the game not
it looked
suit
very
me,
polished.
It looked very polished, and Lucitan saying he doesn't know. You need to go look, Lucitan, because Lucitan, Reg, I would assume Reg wishlisted that the moment it popped up, or did whatever he could to get on that list.
It wouldn't surprise me if there was farming. If it was one of these like cozy, decorating farming games, but just pretty polished.
I will admit, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I didn't know what the game was looking to do, but I will say it did look polished as shit. And that's what kept me through the trailer, as I was like looking at it going, damn, this looks polished for a dress up Barbie doll.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know I don't even know what that game is, but I'll check it out. I don't know if I'll like review it or anything, but Jeff Razel, $5 super chat. Hey guys, love the pod. Do you think Sony's waiting to purchase Sega? Oh, waiting to purchase Sega add-on PS2 classics. Also, my favorite character is Roselle in Kane Soul Reaver. Most charismatic character. So he's answering that question. Yeah, Roselle actually was. Do you guys think Sony's waiting on a purchase of Sega's PS1 Capcom classics? I think that would fit well with PlayStation. I don't know how Sony and Sega are working together, how deep they are working together, but Sega's got what, a couple. Yeah, Sega's got like the arcade classics coming, the Golden Axe, Crazy Taxi, right? Golden Axe, Crazy Taxi, Shinobi. Some amazing games from my youth. So definitely excited for that. Sean H says, Carrick, your house looking clean as fuck, homie. Glowed up the house. Yeah, I wish that was my house.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I think somebody said, hey, Johnny, I love that your background and Silver's backgrounds are real stuff. You've got your guitars. And I'm like, yeah, I bought these metal dishes and I've glued them to the back of the house just because, I like the color silver.
Plot twist. That's like your real home, just a different...
Yeah, it's a slightly different...
A different room in your house.
Exactly.
Well,
we do have a room in my house that is pristine.
Galactic clocks showing like the time of day in different dimensions and stuff.
Exactly, but you can only see it if you like
being if you
squint
to see them. Yeah,
it's like 3D where you have to have a special set of glasses. Dominic says Sega's working with MS, so doubtful. Not to mention Japanese antitrust issues. Yeah, there would be no antitrust at all when it comes to just buying a game package from Sega. But I don't think there's any real movement on that. The next up is Ballad of Antara, fantasy mythological action RPG.
Yep, fast action, some timely dodges in the trailer.
Looked good.
Some bigger enemies looked pretty good. I thought that looked interesting. That in fact looked a little bit like Stellar Blade in my mind
Yeah.
when I looked at it. A little bit more in between, so not like Souls, but more like in between.
Devil May Cry,
more
maybe?
like combos. Yeah, Devil May Cry-ish or something. I got excited for that because that's lately has been what I'm most excited about. Is those more like action or combo based. It's a bit more interesting.
Yeah, it looked interesting
Like
to
the
me. I
setting
liked
too.
what I saw.
Fantasy. Yeah, that looked.
Did you see any of this one, Silver? Because it's sort of...
Yeah, I did.
What did you think of that?
I had trouble making out what to think of it. I guess the gameplay came off a little off to me in some places, in the sense that it didn't really look like gameplay.
Oh, okay.
Like it looked a little constructed, or felt that way to me. So I felt a little disconnected there with how the game will actually be executed and how it will actually
Play.
a sense of how it will actually play. But certainly the atmosphere and the vibes I felt, particularly from the presentation and the narrative, like the narration was very From Software like.
Yeah. Do you know, it's funny because Stellar Blade hit me the same way. Johnny hit a good point where it reminded me of Stellar Blade, and then I also agree with you, Silver, because Stellar Blade's trailers did the same thing for me. And I was always complaining about Stellar Blade's trailers. I was like, these trailers look, there's barely any other enemies. It's just this one guy. It's like there's something about these trailers that look a little weird, that kind of stuff. So that's sort of where I'm putting this one. I liked what I saw. I just haven't seen enough to really, identify if it's going to be my jam or not. Also, I don't know about you guys, but one thing I've been looking at when I look at all of these games, I'm starting to question the overall art aesthetic and what they're trying. Like, do they have a mythology, or are they just trying to throw monsters in? And are they just trying to? Because with Elden Ring,
they're just trying to like mimic.
Yeah, or are they trying to mimic? Yeah, I definitely had that with this, where I was like, I don't know their idea yet. I just need a little bit more idea of what the mythology is. Because, for example, Black Myth Wukong, once I got more trailers, I was like, that is what I want. And I now see where they're going. I need a little bit more of this one to sort of see.
Yeah,
Anybody
I don't think
chat,
they showed anything. They didn't show anything about what that will be like the driving, narrative. You saw the kid and like revealing some type of like fantasy or like different realm or something.
It was
so
Wolf
there's
and
a lot
Cub
in
like
there
in that way, right? Wolf and Cub, the anime.
Yeah, it's almost like they're saving it for a cinematic trailer where they show a bit more of the story and stuff. I thought the thing with the kid could be cool if maybe the kid is helping you out or something. Maybe you can do some a little bit like Atreus, like you kind of like get him to help you a bit.
Yeah, I was excited by what I saw, but with the Wolf and Cub part, with then different other characters, I was just confused also by what I sort of need to understand.
I also think, like, to that point, Johnny, that specifically was something that bothered me, because I didn't have a sense of, like, how does this kid tie into anything?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it seemed so out of place, right?
It reminded me a little bit of Ico or whatever Ico, and then the other game Sony at times has championed, which is like you're helping somebody, or trying to like lead somebody somewhere. And I like that, but then it switched and showed to others. And I was like, okay, wait, are they different heroes maybe? And each one, will a kid be able to do stuff from your back, like throw ninja stars or baby rattles at people? Because if I saw some of that, I'm telling you that kind of stuff actually excites me. The idea of some, a character being able to do things. And I'm sure they've got that built in. I mean, I haven't seen a game, even a B-level indie, low-level, super low, cheap game will usually try to figure out if you have a character on your back, they can do something. I just need to see what they can. And I might have missed it in the trailer. So if they do show that and I missed it. The next up is VR, Johnny. So we were just talking about PSVR or VR right at the starting. They showed Behemoth again, or Behemoth.
Skydances. Skydance games. So Saints and Sinners. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
I just know that the FPS was so low in it that I was getting nervous about what I would feel like playing it. I need to see more of that. I think it's been shown prior to. I'm pretty sure that was the one that we saw maybe a show or two ago where people were like, ooh, that doesn't, it hasn't come together yet. So I just need to see more on that. I'm excited to see more VR games, but I needed more of that.
I like the scale, because that's one thing. And also the trailer will never be able to sell that because you only get that once you're in VR.
Right.
But, we talked about the scale with Elite and other games when you see a stellar object and you just, your brain understands the size of it in VR better because it's like, oh, it occupies my entire field of view. That's how big it is.
Yeah.
There's something about that. And the same with Fallout 4 when you're, walking into a building.
Absolutely.
And now the building is your is around you. So that, I think, with the Giants they showed, and that excites me if they do it well. What I'm wondering is what's the movement like? Because we've seen so many, teleport-based VR. I'm kind of past that. That really doesn't cut it for me as like a gameplay to be teleporting.
Mm-hmm.
I really want free movement, at least as an option. So
I would also say when you look at it too, Johnny, so the scale, like we've talked about, Resident Evil 7, when when the dude's in your face and the chick's in your face, you're like, that character is here. And no matter how good a window with rain outside looks, that's your 2D screen. When you go outside, that's VR. And there is a huge bonus to that with scale, that just like HDR is hard to show on YouTube if a person doesn't have an HDR screen. They're just looking at it going, okay, maybe this does look cool, but I can't tell. So with the VR, it's also, it is hard to push it. But the next one was not so hard. That was Alien Rogue Incursion. So they only showed a little bit, and boy, the FPS was like 12.
Dude, I made a note here. It was so framey. It was like, 12 FPS.
12
the one
FPS.
Sequence they showed.
It was rough, but it is an Alien VR game.
Yeah.
Not enough can be said about how cool an Alien VR game could be. Water squirting because people are going to pee themselves. That to me is actually a game that I could find myself being super tense playing. An Alien game built from the ground up in VR. I'm actually excited for that one. Again, at 12 FPS, you have to blink a lot when that goes on, and just hope that smooths out. You need some motion blurring on your face for that. People were saying that it looks like that port company worked on God of War 2018. This is the port company handling Ragnarok, which is what we had thought. But then another person says they did it all. I think that's the confusion I also had. One place it says they did it all. The other says that they handled or helped porting. So we're still sort of waiting on that. S1X says, ACG, would you go on Theo's podcast if invited? Sure. Yeah, Theo Vaughn cracks me up. Damaged Code, $2 super chat says, is there an MMORPG that had promise but died that you liked?
Not really. What about you guys?
Go ahead.
There was one that turned out to be kind of vaporware called Dawn. This was back in the the way back in the early 2000s. It did look kind of promising, and like would have been way ahead of its time. As like a kind of very, very early, massively multiplayer sort of online survival RPG game. But outside of that, I don't. Like Warhammer, I didn't really get into. Like Star Wars Galaxies, I did a little bit, and that died. I mean, most of the MMORPGs I played back in the day have died now.
Right.
Like City of Heroes, eventually died.
Yeah. Terra, did you guys play that one?
Well.
Yeah, I played Terra.
I
didn't like it though.
Yeah. You didn't like? Okay.
Ballad of Antara is also free to play, we were just told. So some people are saying Terra, WildStar, Warhammer Online, though Warhammer Online is now back. WildStar, Ultima, though I think Ultima probably has a private servers up the ying.
Yeah. I mean that is a caveat with these games that a lot of them have, I don't know, a dozen or like 150 players maybe playing on private servers, maybe in like clustered communities.
Yeah.
I would say for me the big one, but it's not dead, is Secret World. They have a classic version, just like Warhammer or just like World of Warcraft, and then they have their updated version. I have both installed. I got to find out if Classic still works because there was a hack to get into the Classic servers and install that version, and I like the original better. But when it comes
Anarchy
to
Online before that,
yeah, Anarchy Online, I was going to say was one that I think was good. But for me, Asheron's Call is probably there's Asheron's Call 1 and 2, and 2 came out and it wasn't as good as 1, and I believe 2 was the one that died pretty quickly. And I really did enjoy those games for what they were. They were trying to do world scale events before a lot of people were sort of getting it pegged down. Asa from Gaming Arcadia has come on a couple times, and he and I usually are the two that really mention Asheron's Call. So I would assume that's a good one to mention as one that came and went and unfortunately died. People are reminding us that the VR games are not Sony exclusive, and yes, that is true. Most of these games are not, or many of them are. Next one is, of course, Marvel Rivals, third-person hero shooter. So I got to tell you guys, it's Marvel, right? But Marvel's died many times. Avengers, Omega. You know, they have had titles that couldn't take advantage of the IP. But what I saw of that game, that looked fun. I did think so, yeah. I don't think amazing, but it looked fun what they were doing. I don't know. You don't sound like you agree, Silver. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
That
was not for you.
That to be probably one of the most underwhelming trailers.
Trailers of all of them, really? Damn.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. I guess to me, the sense I got was just that a lot of it is just running around ability spamming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess
and that's just not fun to me, I guess. So yeah, it was just running around, use your super,
Right.
use your super, and that was basically it. I didn't really get a sense of the gameplay outside of just spamming the super abilities, whatever they are for the given characters. So yeah, that.
So
that didn't
solid
really
no on Silver's
vibe
part.
with me.
Solid no. What about you, Johnny? Do you have
so the core
solid
gameplay does seem pretty, like I was saying, kind of exchangeable compared to Concord and other games of this type.
Yeah.
But what I do like is I am a fan of those heroes, and like being able to play as them is cool. You know, I like Marvel Alliance games a lot. I was a fan of Marvel versus Capcom back in the day, and that kind of struck a chord with me, the way they showed the team ups and the on-screen like hero stuff that comes up, and when they do the specials and stuff, that reminded me a little bit of that, and I think I would enjoy that. Also, I like there was some like destructible stuff, not full destructible, but like some, which was cool. I think like people calling out their powers is cringy as fuck. That was one thing I noticed.
Yeah,
everybody was calling out the storm, right? Like
that reminds me of Tales of Arise.
Tales of Arise. Everyone needs to call their kick.
Very video game thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very.
Lucky honorable horseshoe each time.
Pretty mixed.
Like, I'm done listening.
Or I mean, going all the way back to how do you again?
Yeah.
Yeah, very much.
I mean, that's the classic. Yeah.
It does contain some swinging though. There's some swinging in there.
I think you're talking about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure. All right. Well, swinging can mean multiple things, and you added a hard G on the swing. You get swinging, and I was all.
True enough. Yeah.
What's he talking about? Yeah, dude. So here's the reason
Not
why.
much of a superpower, though.
No, unless it involves fighting off STDs. I think when you look at the reason why I found it more interesting is simply because as a Overwatch style game, I'm not a fan of the current ones. So when it was Marvel and they were pulling off those moves, I was like, okay, that interests me more. But I should point out, more when your level is pretty low isn't very high in and of itself. So yeah. No, I get you guys. I'm glad to see more of it. I want to see, if it does well and it's fun, that's great. Some of the specials I thought looked cool. I didn't pick up that they call out their move all the time. That'll kill my soul. Like if I mean, can you imagine Spider-Man be like, I'm swinging, swing,
Yeah.
web attack?
Yeah.
I'd be like, nah, I'm out. But you can turn those off, I'm assuming, for the most part, which
Yeah,
is
I would
fine,
hope
too.
so.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's true though. I hadn't thought about the fact
You
that if
just
you're
get the
listening to
cacophony
these
of
guys-
noise.
Yeah, just people over the top of one another.
From like, yeah, the 8 characters, however many are playing in a different
Thunder punch,
match.
Thor's hammer,
Yeah.
elbow, Macho Man comes in. But yeah, I get it. That makes sense, man. Third person hero shooter for anybody interested in it. I think that it hit a little lean, and I definitely saw a lot of people being like, why are we seeing this? Because it's already been shown. People knew that one was out there, and there was betas and stuff. But I will say a big kudo to Sony. Maybe not a big kudo. Maybe it's what we want. But not all of these, but a couple of these were for this year, which I think is positive. Because this year is still going to be lean, but we talked about it on the podcast on Wednesday with Mike and Asa that this year is lean. People can't just make up a game to release this fall. That's not how development works. But a couple of these games are at least in betas this fall, which might be nice to jump into a beta. It'll be a free game. It still looks like fall is lean, but there was a couple here that were releasing.
And Concord is full launching in August, so that will be fully out.
Was
And
that
then
one
you
free
had
to play?
Ragnarok.
I forgot to ask that.
I don't know. I didn't see anything about that.
That is a hard
A
sell.
good question.
Yeah. Depending on the pricing, right? And then next up, where winds meet.
This was the highlight for me, by the way, of the whole show.
Okay, go for it. What?
I felt some Neo energy.
Neo?
There was
Okay.
There was a fucker fighting with an umbrella that looked amazing, right? Like a dude with an umbrella fighting off a guy with a sword. The bosses, the Oni stuff going on. I got some Neo energy. So pretty positive.
Do you remember anything about this one, Silver?
Yeah, I remember my initial reaction to seeing like the Oni and stuff was, is this going to be like an Onimusha remake or something? And then, but yeah, I mean, it looked good. I agree with Johnny there. But outside of that, like it didn't strike a particular chord with me beyond that.
So here's the thing. I would say I didn't even know what game this was until Johnny reminded me. But now that he does, yes, I did like the idea of the way it looked, but I feel like one of the issues with this state of play is a lot of games were samey. So this one reminded me a little bit of Ballad, which reminds me a little bit of Forgotten, or Lords of the Fallen, which reminds me a little, which reminds me a little, which reminds me a little. And I think with this one, the best part was they showed a lot of the enemies, and they were really cool enemy designs. There was cool things going on that I actually really liked. They showed a little bit more of it. I don't know when this one's coming out. I don't remember the time frame for this.
No date was given. It just says it's in development by Everstone.
So that's the one thing that did pop up was I do remember this one. That was the one I wanted a date for. So this was probably top on my list. I wanted a date for this, and they didn't have a date, and that disturbed me a little bit because obviously that means 2005 or 25, 26, and that was a little unfortunate because I do remember now this was the one that I thought the enemies looked. Somebody says Noob says look like Wukong a little bit, and I would agree, which is might be why it grabbed me. Next up, Until Dawn, the remake. So this will be on PS5. The remake is coming out, and then also on PC. Dude, I like the game.
Super cool. Love the game.
Yep.
I was a bit confused. I don't know if they said it was a remake. They just said Until Dawn. So I was thinking, is it like a remaster, re-release thing? So it's like...
It's a remaster. It's a... Okay, maybe. No.
Ultimate version.
I guess it's an ultimate version remake, Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I don't know where this one falls. I
would still play it. I mean, it's it's a timeless game. You can jump into it very easily. Yeah,
and Hueo?
Yeah, but you
Probably
can also do that with the original, incidentally.
totally off on
Yeah.
that. He says, weren't the graphics already super good in the game? They were not super good, but they were good. Yeah, very.
Yeah,
I
they
thought
were
that
good.
they were good. Yeah. And so I'm excited to play it because I like the story, and they did a good job fixing it up because it had issues technically.
We'll say,
when it
like,
first released.
I don't know what it was, but this trailer, in the trailer here, I don't know, there was something about the characters that just seemed really off to me in the way they moved and stuff.
The way they moved, interesting.
Yeah. I couldn't even put my finger on exactly what it was, but it just immediately disconnected me. Like, looked off.
It could be possible, Silver,
It
that
could
what
also
you're
be
seeing
just the part of the presentation, like the format of the presentation or whatever.
It could be, but if they're doing it at 60 and they took the original motion movements
Right.
at 30, they might be interpolating something, and you're seeing,
maybe.
you're noticing a difference there. Yeah. I'll have to go back and look at that. I noticed that it reminded me a little bit of Batman Arkham Trilogy's remake, where there were lighting differences and there's cinematic differences, so you have to sort of take that into account. It's also not done, so I'll want to see it when it gets done. The original definitely looked really good for its time, but it also had a lot of issues with Black Crush in its lighting and some problems there. So I'm excited for it just because I did like the original. But I would agree, now that I think about it, Silver, I think somebody else mentioned that in our chat too. We had a lot of people talking. We had a ton of people in that chat, but I'm almost 100% sure somebody said, oh, the motion looks a little weird. And yeah, that could absolutely be some kind of smoothing that's going on from what their original files were. I don't know how they did that. I have no clue, but I'm just guessing. Because if you weren't the only one who noticed it, and I know you normally don't mention that kind of stuff, I'm assuming it was more noticeable. Yeah. Next up, Path of Exile 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Path of Exile 2.
It is,
Yeah,
but
it looks
I
fun.
think it looks directionally different. I felt like, it's a bit more mechanically focused in the sense that, you're kind of like paying more attention to what enemies are doing, maybe dodging more stuff, being a bit more deliberate about your movement and stuff, less crowd heavy. So less about the big crowds and maybe a bit more about the smaller, more focused, and then some awesome like spell effects and impact and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely felt pretty exciting to play.
What about you, Silver? Path of Exile 2 interest you?
No, but that's because I'm not really into that like action RPG genre. But I mean, for what it is in that genre, it is. I mean, that did look really good.
Yeah.
Frankly, that looked a lot of fun, and that could potentially draw my interest, depending on what it looks like when it releases, and what I see in actual gameplay terms, when people start playing it. Because I did actually try to get into Diablo 4, and that just bounced off that quite heavily.
Dude, I thought
And
the
I've never
graphics
gotten
looked
into
really good in
Path
this.
of Exile either, because I just like the gameplay loop of click, 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 hit a potion, or whatever. It's just not something I find engaging.
Yeah, what I saw looked really. I mean, when I say it was just Path of Exile 2, I mean we already know what it looks like and what it's doing. We already know it's Path of Exile 2. But personally, to me, I thought graphically, I saw some of the animations. I was like, oh, that looks really cool. Will I get it into it? I don't know, because I've also bounced off the last couple I've tried, just like Silver. I usually need something extra in those now. That isn't being catered to me for whatever reason. As in, I don't mean catered, but I mean I'm not finding it in the ones I'm trying, and I'm still looking because I do like that genre. Diablo, I used to review every Diablo too. So go ahead.
I mean, there was even this part of the presentation where it looked like a twin stick shooter.
Yeah. There was some stuff in there that looked a little changey, which might be good. Might be good, man. I mean,
yeah.
I think
plus the cross-platform stuff is cool, right?
Yep.
And even co-op and couch co-op.
Yep. I'm excited for it. I mean, it's is Path of Exile 2 cost or is it free to play?
It's free to play.
It's free to play. So, dude, to me that's great because I can test out if what I'm needing from those games is there for free.
Yeah.
And I can just play it and be like, is this whatever I was looking for? I don't quite know. They haven't drawn me in, but I'll definitely check it out. The one that was roughest of the show for me, by no stretch, absolutely just the roughest was the Silent Hill trailer. I mean, what? I don't know, but it looked off. It looked rough as shit. It looked weird character looks. Like, I don't know what I was
The
thinking.
lady looked pretty, like, the model itself looked pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, man, that
Like,
gave
it was,
me like,
PS4, early PS4.
it was weird looking, and it caused me, we were all talking, and it showed up, and I'm like, what is going on in this game? What is this? And then realized it was Silent Hill. This is a remake, right, of 2?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know, man.
Arguably the most popular Silent Hill game.
Arguably the most popular. Okay. And it's a full remake. So this is going to be what have we got any data on what that entails as a remake? Like, are they going to add stuff? I'm assuming they are.
I have no idea.
It looked tanky as shit. I will say that too. Boy, did that remind me of the moment the character turned, I was like, whoa, Resident Evil vibes. The tank. Everything looked really
immediately.
chunk. Yeah.
And I have 2 notes here. One is the lady in the trailer has clearly been through some shit. She was, just utterly traumatized, which fair enough. And the other note is contains terrible dodge.
Terrible dodge. Okay, that's
terrible
a unique
dodge. One. It's kind of like an Alan Wake shuffle.
Oh, it is. I know what you're talking. Dude, I thought that was just a sidestep or something. Was that
Dude,
the
that's
dodge?
the dodge.
No, that can't be the No.
Dude, it's the shuffle.
No. Because I know what you're talking about. That can't be the dodge. There's no way that's the dodge.
You don't
in that
think
game.
so?
I don't think so. If that's the dodge, dude, I know what you're talking about the shuffle. I thought that was like a sidestep strafe. If that's the dodge, we're in deep shit.
Yeah, the Alan Wake shuffle, man.
Dominic says it was the dodge. Well,
it was the dodge.
man, they looked rough, man. That game, and by the way, we say it looks rough. It doesn't mean the game will look rough. We've already
It'd still be awesome.
And it's happened many times where you get those alpha, beta, and you're like, ooh, and then
and
it
they
shows
had
up.
some satisfying finishers, like the way you would kill some enemies, like stepping on their heads and stuff. That's cool.
I can't believe that's the dodge. I'm still stunned that's because that is like the lethargic. Have you ever woke up in the morning and you bump into like the door jam and you do that really tired, like you barely stay up because you're so sorry, but that is what she looked like, dude. Do you know what I'm talking about, Johnny? Where you do the barely able to move thing, and you're like, and you're sort of tired. It looked like a tired I hit the door jam kind of moment. That's all I'm saying. I think we've all been there. But hey, whatever. Sorry, Johnny, for making you spit on your mic if you did. But it looked rough, man. That's all I'm saying.
I'm dying over here. I spat my water all over them.
But isn't that what it looked like?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I hadn't even thought about it either until you said it, because I'm telling you straight up, I did really feel that was like a, like a, I don't know, a saddle. They used to call it saddle. Now it's strafe, and then it's something else. But yeah, we'll have to see. So Silent Hill 2 remake. Go ahead, Silver.
I have to admit, Silent Hill was one of the series I never got into.
Yeah, I liked one of them.
I played because everyone was raving about them at the time they came out. So I did play them, like the first 2, and like the first one I played for a little bit, and then this is just like I didn't find them. I didn't find them like scary or unnerving at all. And which I think is a major reason why, like, I couldn't immerse myself in them. Really, I kept getting disconnected. So that really hurt the experience for me, as opposed to a lot of people, where I just could not connect with the gameplay or the atmosphere. Like, because a lot of the atmosphere, certainly in the first one, was just, oh, look at all this fog, isn't this spooky?
Yeah, I definitely have not matched up with Silent Hill other than one of them. And I'm having a difficult time remembering which of them it was, because those are older games. But I do remember one of them I really liked, but the rest have been more along the lines of just not doing it for me for whatever reason.
I like the premise, though, getting through like a cursed town type thing and making it past that.
Yeah. And I like some of their creature designs. I'm not as into it as other people, because I've seen people who really like the different designs that they've seen.
Yeah, Pyramid Head.
Pyramid Head being in particular one of them, which is a creepy character too. I mean, that is a legitimate. There's something about organic and geometric sharp shapes that people,
true.
right? You see a triangle sticking out of somebody's bone or somebody's arm, and you're like, dude, that's an alien. We got to kill it. Like, there's something about that sharp angle mix that I dig, and it's scary in normal sci-fi games too. You'll see, the mix of almost a body horror kind of thing. So, I'll definitely want to check it out.
Pyramid Head was definitely better designed than Mr. X from Resident Evil. Like
I would agree with that.
Similar purpose in that word, but
yeah. There's I don't know of anybody, even if they hate Silent Hill, who would argue that it's not way better than. I mean, yeah. What about the tall lady though in Village? Did you like her more than Nemesis or Mr.
Still
X?
haven't played Village.
Oh, you still haven't played Village? Oh, okay, all right. Well, I mean, it is what it is. I didn't love it as much as what is it, 7? Is that what we're calling? Yeah, Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
But it was enjoyable. Next up, though, I think game of the show, which is not a high bar, unfortunately, but Monster Hunter Wilds, also framey at times, to the point to where many of us thought it was on purpose monsters were stop motion, which came up in our discussion. But I liked what I saw big time of Monster Hunter Wilds. Man, the monsters looked awesome. The way it all played looked familiar, but also brand new. So go ahead, Johnny. You also were interested in this one?
Yeah, the open areas look fantastic. Some of the interaction between beasts was really cool. Like
the
some
one
of the smaller
jumping
guys.
on the other one.
Yeah, the bigger one, and then but at the same time it seems familiar, right? The weapons, there are some new ones, but they seem familiar. The movement and everything. The scantily clad handler, of course. I like the companion. I thought the addition of the animal companion was a really good plus in Rise.
Yeah.
And the ability to do stuff while on the back of your animal is really cool. Like, for example, you could sharpen your sword while on the back of the thing while running. That's awesome. In this, you could shoot even from back, and you could do different stuff. That's very cool. And if you got knocked down, you actually got rescued by it, and they put you on their back and
God, it was like Dragon's Dogma, the pawn catching
kind of saved you. Yeah, that was very cool. The lip sync was async. It was like
it was desynced on purpose. It was so bad.
Yeah, it was decent.
I think that was an audio issue.
Novellas with the dubs,
or like Kung Fu Theater. I will kill you. You're all yeah, dude. I agree. That was mentioned right away. We saw that. I don't know, man. Weapon switching, quality of life stuff. It all looked. And some of the monsters, I really liked the way everything seemed to play out in that particular trailer. Other than, like I said, I swear to God, they had a encode issue in Premiere because so many of these games had low frame rates, which was really weird. But if you ignore that, because we should, what I saw until we get them, what I saw for that game in particular was that they had taken the best of the last two, and they're like, all right. Here's what we got from Rise. Here's what we got from World, but it's going to be a world style thing. It's open world, so we'll have to see how that plays out versus sort of what we saw originally.
It's like Monster Hunter actual world.
Yeah, Monster Hunter real world. What about you, Silver? Yeah. Did Monster Hunter get you at all? Because I don't think I hear you talk about Monster Hunter much. You played?
No, it's not. No, I haven't played Monster Hunter at all. It's never really appealed to me, and this trailer didn't either, for much the same reasons the previous didn't. It just disconnects me completely.
Why is that? Because this requires expertise in some. Go ahead. Sorry.
There's both that, and there's the gameplay element, that a lot of the UI and fundamental gameplay of the series, from what I've seen other people play, Johnny in particular, reminds me a lot of what I hate about MMO RPG gameplay.
Okay.
Where it's a lot of go to these skills and do like this, and the interface design that that doesn't really strike a chord with me. And like for this trailer in particular, like I'm immediately disconnected when the characters look like they've gone to like their wardrobe with a blindfold and just thrown on whatever. And then you like, and then there's the disconnect in
I feel
saying, "Oh,
called
go
out
hunt, go
hugely right
hunt
now.
this thing, go hunt this thing or whatever. Here's get its resources and whatever, and oh, here's a sword that's where the blade is longer than you are tall." It's just all combines into a mass of things that gets too messy and disconnected for me to engage with.
I really, because of how much you like certain games and like, you know, the difficulty curve that indicate with some weapons in this game,
Right.
which are quite high, I would have always assumed that would have grabbed you. But if the entire world and the way things work aren't grabbing you, there's no way, no way I would jump into that. So I do get where you're coming from. I definitely do. I actually agree with all that. I mean, I don't agree. I'm okay. It makes sense in their world. It's hard to describe. It makes sense when you get into it.
And I get why it works for people.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, no, I understand. I would say like Capcom is one of those companies right now that I feel like, you know, they've had a couple misses for sure. I think Resident Evil 3, the remake, you know, there were some issues there with the shortness and a couple bugs. But I think they nailed pretty much everything. They had issues with with Dragon's Dogma's frame rate in cities, which I believe DLSS was added this morning. So it's not that they're perfect, but I feel like they're one of the companies that usually hits the mark. And certainly in the last year or so, I feel like they've hit the mark for the most part, even if I don't like all their games. So I'm excited in that way. What I saw looked like it'd be an absolute blast. I also hope it's not so super grindy, but I'm sure it's going to be.
I think just to reiterate on the point I was trying to make, I think for me it goes to the heart of, I think for me a Monster Hunter, like the Monster Hunter game I play is Horizon.
That makes sense.
If that makes sense, because
it does.
In that game you do sort of hunt larger monsters to mine and gather their resources, but in order to hunt them you need a specific plan. You need particularly on the higher difficulties, you need a specific
on the harder
plan,
difficulties,
preparations. You need to possibly make use of traps and whatnot. All of these stuff in combination with each other, that and in a way that feels somewhat grounded and connected to the game world.
Dragon's Dogma 2 made me a believer, Jay says. Yeah, it definitely, they've hit it
Dragon's
pretty
Dogma
well.
2 I love as well, because that
yeah.
also feels grounded in that way.
Yeah. It's funny because of all the titles on here, it's the one I knew the most about, I think. And yet it still was the one that what I saw was what I think we'll be playing. There was no real question mark, no real gray area. It was like, here you go. And then what they did was they showed little bits like weapon switching, the character or the creature saving you, little positives that were just like, oh, this could be, you know, it might be their magnum opus kind of title where it's, you know, I know it's not their third. Obviously, they have 8,000 of these. I don't know what their names are, but, you know, they even have the stories, the other one, Monster Hunter Stories, the Pokemon style ones. But this one looks, yeah, it looks good to me. I'm interested in it. We'll just have to see. With the Sony event, the last thing they ended with, I was told by the leak went out of all of this, right, prior to the event, a day, I think. I was told there was also going to be a surprise end one. There wasn't, so if anybody knows, there was not like a one last thing. But the one last thing was Astrobot as a paid-for full single-player game. Not a pack-in like it was originally. Are you guys Astrobot fans? Did the Astrobot video, the Astrobot last trailer, interest you in any way? Was there anything about that grabbed you?
It's funny, but I actually thought it kind of looked. I definitely think it was like probably the most fun-looking trailer for me. In the presentation, it just looked old school.
Very old school, yeah.
Like old school in all the ways that sort of really resonated with me from playing video games for over 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it had that.
But that being said, I probably won't be playing the game, but I appreciated what it delivered in the trailer nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, what about you, Johnny?
I think it's really wholesome. I like what they do with the 3D models of things. You know, they'll take like the controller and turn it into a ship and stuff. And they take really good advantage of the hardware of the controller. You know, it feels really responsive. When I played like the original Astrobot they did for PS5, that felt really good. Just moving around and stuff. You know, you had some really nice haptic feedback on that, and some fun like set pieces and stuff. So yeah, I think it's cool, man. It's a little bit like old school in a sense, like old school video games with just like some fun set pieces, you know, like, oh, here's a cool dinosaur that like.
It's funny because Griffin said what I sort of got was Astrobot looked like the original Crash Bandicoot games.
Oh,
I don't think to me with near the edge or excitement, but
yeah, parts of it did.
Yeah, parts of it had that old school,
like Jack and Daxter and whatever. Yeah,
it'll be a full game. They are charging for it, so it's going to be like a real game. So I'm interested to see what we get from a real game all the way through. I saw a lot of creatures that looked pretty good. I will say it definitely. So you see like a Ratchet and Clank, which is ridiculous looking graphically, like just next level. Not as kinetic, I mean, other than the guns, but I mean, not there. This was more chaotic and looked old school, platformy. You know, running around as a guy shooting you and just barely missing. You know, the shots barely missing you. That kind of stuff could be exciting, but it's definitely polarizing, man. Because it's weird with Astrobot. It seems like there is just no middle ground. Of all the games that I was talking about in the group, it was either somebody was like, oh, I can't wait, or this is absolutely 100% not for me, which is also cool that they're doing it because I like that.
Yeah.
I don't care if people loved it or hated it. I like that they did Hellblade. I like that companies say, you know what, this is what we're doing, and it's going to hit this particular group. You know, and they made, you know, it's this thing for them. I think that's cool, regardless if I like it or not. I liked the look of it. I think the characters are sweet looking, you know, and like cute looking, but that doesn't really grab me usually. So I'm trying to see what I'll think of this one. Some of the enemies look cool. Danny Passion, $2. Guardians of the Galaxy looks interesting, but paid. Looks interesting, but paid. Guardians of the Galaxy looks interesting, but paid. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. I apologize. What's but paid mean for Guardians of the Galaxy? Maybe.
No idea either.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Sorry. Can you explain that a little bit more, Danny? What the Guardians of the Galaxy? Oh, is it right? He's talking about Concord, but what does he mean by paid? Because is there a Guardians of the Galaxy that is out? Because they're both paid for games, right? Or is Concord free?
Yeah. I'm
he
not
means
sure.
Maybe pay to win. Yeah, because it's not free to play. They're all paid for. So there's no.
Yeah, I think Guardians came to Game Pass, but it's still like
Guardians still is a real price.
It's the price.
Guardians was never free to play either. But yeah, so that's the Sony event, man. We don't rate Sony events, Microsoft events, or Nintendo events, but I don't know. I will say these events, Microsoft's, Nintendo's, Sony's, have all sort of left me cold in the last couple. I don't know about you guys. It's not like terrible. It's just they haven't hit, probably because maybe there's just not anything out right now, you know, coming that they can show. You know what I would have liked to have seen? Kingdom Come Deliverance. They're paying for titles anyway. Replace Concord with a 4-minute Kingdom Come Deliverance, you know, sword fight. Here's what Kingdom Come Deliverance looks like. I would have probably been a little bit more excited than seeing a trailer. But Danny, Concord should be free to play. Sorry. No worries, Danny. And you didn't need to do that second money chat, but I appreciate it. Yeah. Money chat. We'll call money chat. It's not super.
That
Cash
sounds
paid
dirty
for.
though.
It does.
Money chat.
It does. What did you guys think in chat of this event? What do you think of these events in total? Do you like these, or would you rather see everybody going back to what would you call it? Going back to E3s and maybe one of these every 4 months or something. Yeah. Dominic says, Damage says, I listen to your podcast on YouTube Music and it says your chat's off over there. Is it possible to turn it on? No. You'd have to be on here, I would assume. I have no clue. I've never gone to the YouTube podcast channel. I don't even know what the YouTube podcast channel is other than it exists. But who does? It's YouTube. They'll destroy it in a week, right? They're like Google. You'll just have this long list of apps that they've
that's
shut
the
down.
new thing. They're shutting down the podcast app in favor of the YouTube Music. So now YouTube Music is music plus
and
podcasts and also videos that you're only listening to, but not like watching the video. So technically any YouTube video, you can like just listen to the audio through the music.
I just don't even understand where they're going. And I don't think they do. Did you guys see that Discord, for the 4th time now, has stated that they are completely changing directions again? So Discord started out business/games, then went to business, then back to games, had their own store, then went to business, and now, just day before yesterday, I think, stated, we're going back to games. And we're going to focus on games.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't even know if it matters to any of us. As in, I don't know if we'll see a change, other than I would love to see Xbox being able, if you're streaming on the Xbox, you can't see others' videos. That would be great. There's certainly console stuff that I would love to see be fixed. But yeah, it's just really odd that they thought that, I guess, we would need, that kind of information or that kind of announcement. Fresh says, I don't think it was nearly as bad, but you're absolutely right that most of these videos leave me cold. Yeah, I didn't see a lot of people saying it was bad. I just saw people saying it was pretty poor. I think that's the difference is there are levels. And there's always going to be somebody on the internet saying something's absolutely terrible and it's the end of Sony or the end of Microsoft. Yeah. But
I mean, hyperbole is part of the standard lingo of the internet. Yeah.
Can Sony people use Discord through the console? Yeah, parts of it, but I don't think all of it. I don't remember. Dude, it's weird. It's like the console, the way consoles work on Discord is really odd. I asked people questions and topics for the event, and I also asked people what was the worst beginning of a great game and why it was bad. And I want to read some of these. Boxenberger with the best answer right away. We all know the reason why I agree is the reason why I like it is because I agree. He says RDR2. Great game, but the start was way, way too slow. Absy's not here to defend his favorite game of all time.
The snow segment, dude.
Yeah.
Slow walking in the snow.
Jez Gordon from Windows Central says, Dragon Age 2 felt really repetitive at the start. Yeah, I would actually agree. Dragon Age 2 was a rough one, right? Dragon Age 2 was like a little rough all the way around. So I can see why people saw that. Gav, Miracle of Sound. What's up, Gav? Hope you're doing well. He says same thing. Red Dead 2. The intro is a slog.
Dragon Age 2 opened with I actually thought that opening was somewhat interesting because it opened with a huge fight that you then find out is never happened because Varric is like it introduces Varric as the unreliable narrator of the game.
Oh, okay. Def Ego says Starfield. Yeah, I would agree with that. Starfield, even though we know why, that was just it was a rough run. Dan says CD Projekt Red's 2077.
I like the beginning of that. I thought it was a good setup. It was just a bit shallow, the differences between factions, right? You kind of just had that short intro for each faction.
Yeah. Fuzzy says Assassin's Creed 3. While the Hatham reveal was awesome, the extreme long, linear, and quote, frankly, tedious opening segment overstays its welcome. I think I've seen Assassin's Creed 3 5 times in these responses. Beginning of Mass Effect 2 felt awkward. It so did. Knights of the Old Republic 2. I agree completely. I know what you're talking about. That tutorial planet was rough. Hellblade 2. I did not like walking at the starting. Jay Slayer says, people say Spider-Man 1 is good, but they didn't like Spider-Man 1's beginning. Spider-Man 1 is where you fight Fisk, right? I didn't mind. Yeah, there's some slow. I can. I agree. It worked for me, but I actually get what you're saying. Listen to this, guys. Matthias says, Ghost of Tsushima. The slog through the first couple hours. That might be a hot take. Do you guys remember anything about that? I mean, I haven't played the PC.
I've literally just played it. So
what do you think?
Yeah.
Would you be in
No,
agreement with that?
I don't.
No.
I don't agree. I think
No
I
agreement
think it flows
whatsoever.
pretty well.
Okay.
But I mean, that's just different. But yeah, I can understand why it wouldn't. But
Let's see. Cyberpunk 2077, another one. Wow, that is not what I was expecting. Assassin's Creed 3, Kingdom Hearts 2, Dragon Age Inquisition. I felt that the first 15 hours before the actual story began, was slow, I guess. After that, the game was awesome. Witcher 3. Graham Ray says Witcher 3. Is that a piss take?
well,
Is
I
that a
mean,
piss take?
White Orchard. Not everyone.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, there were other people who didn't who struggled a bit with White Orchard and connecting there.
Yeah, man, I get it. I get that complaint. I get that complaint.
So.
AC Valhalla, I definitely get the first area. Though I went back to the first area, I do absolutely understand why people would say Valhalla's beginning they didn't like.
I'll say for me,
go for it.
Like, I think one person who does this reliably for me is Kojima. The opening to Metal Gear Solid 4, Metal Gear Solid 5, and Death Stranding, where you sit through so many cutscenes, so much dialogue, and so much of it is completely redundant.
It's very self-indulgent.
Yeah. I mean, like, one I bring up all the time, but like watching Sonny in Metal Gear Solid 4 fry an egg for like 20 minutes as Otacon and Snake are talking is not like riveting a riveting gameplay introduction for like briefing your mission, I don't think. So yeah.
So moving
those definitely stand out to me.
Moving on from there, I want to bring this up. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but Destiny, the last place, was leaked on accident by Sony's store. A bunch of people played it, and the data got out, and then they shut it down. The access was revoked. Campaign details were leaked. Information was leaked. This looks like a Sony oversight, something about the store. This has happened before with Microsoft. It's happened on Twitter with accidental leaks there. But basically what happened was Bungie says this in their tweet. They said, please be considerate of others and report leaks so players can experience the conclusion of the Light and Darkness saga themselves. Thanks to all our community members who've already helped us by reporting leaks and those actively working to prevent more of the experience from being shared. It's always extremely difficult when our teams work hard and it's leaked early, but we're still excited for everyone to experience the full release on June 4th. So yeah, that... I don't know the ins and outs. I'm sure somebody will do an investigation and break it down by time. But basically that leaked. And then there was another rumor that was even more interesting. And that was that the Elden Ring DLC leaked to some people and they got to play it early. But I haven't been able to track if that's real yet. And somebody in chat will probably know this because I've been preparing for the podcast. But I got to tell you guys, man, there's enough leaks already. These companies don't need to be releasing the games active on their fucking store. Like there has got to be a come to Jesus discussion with these companies and what they're doing, because you can't tell me that doesn't impact so many people, man. Having your stuff leaked for playability later. Now Destiny's online, so you can just say we're shutting off access. But if somebody were to get Elden Ring, download it, and then turn off their network on the PlayStation and play it. I don't know how often network checks are done on digital certificates of games, but at some point, that sucks beyond all belief. I would be so pissed. I would be so pissed if the store just opened it up for people to play. And maybe there's people just sitting there hitting the download button. I don't know. Like, how do you even find that out? I'm assuming somebody went to buy it maybe and it popped up.
Yeah, because think about it. A single leak could actually, kill the hype for the whole game in a way, because if one, leaker shows a bunch of stuff from the game and they can't stop it, you know how the internet is, they can shut it down, but once the video has been uploaded, it will be, just replicated, it will pop up, it'll be disseminated everywhere and people will see it. So
yeah, like somebody said, it's been 10 years of working on this, and to have that leaked is fucking, dude.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Man, I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. So G-Rad says, Reddit was from streaming Destiny 2 from the cloud after a server update, and it loaded the expansion versus the current game for people playing. Wow. Yeah, somehow that got messed up. I mean, dude, I don't know. What do you do? Maybe you just wait till the day prior before you upload your shit at all, right? You know, you find some way to be... Yeah.
Yeah.
Supposedly also YouTube is now investigating all these leaks, the GTA leak, the PlayStation event leak, are investigating it fully to find out if people are leaking the unlisted video links early. And they're doing a full investigation into seeing if it's somebody at YouTube, you know, who has access to those kind of things, passing that data on to others. And if it's YouTube, YouTube ain't stopping at the person who does it. YouTube's going to crash anybody. If you've had any connection to that, if your name's on a Discord, prepare to have, like if it was my channel, you know, and I was like showing stuff, prepare to have your channel shut down. Like that kind of stuff is crazy, man. Leaks have become weird. It's not, you know how it used to be? I've heard something, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's like little tidbits. Now it's like, boom, here's every single event. Here's blah, blah, blah. Here's blah, blah, blah. It's just like, you know, and then here's the game. I think we've seen store-bought releases go early, obviously. You know, you go to the store, the Walmart guy accidentally puts the game up on the store shelf. I've taken part in that multiple times. The Lego games used to release way early. As Phenosha says, the NVIDIA leak was huge because I don't know if you guys remember, the GeForce Now / NVIDIA leak was years ago and has listed every single game from Sony that's coming to PC. Well before they did. I mean, it was just like boom, boom, boom. And I think 99.9 have continued, like, well, yeah, as they say, continues to be true. So, but if I was one of those companies, man, I'd seek litigation. I don't know if, you know, Bungie versus Sony, they're owned by them, but go ahead.
What you could do is you upload a troll version of the game where, like, it's the base game. And when you go into the DLC area, it's just a sign saying gotcha, or like, you know.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Or if they make it look like you got into the real one and you're playing, your weapons degrade over time or something. You're like,
oh, not yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We caught you.
Gotcha.
Also announced yesterday or today, PC Gamer posted that Private Division has canceled a deal for Bloober Team's unannounced survival game, Project C. So Bloober Team was working with Private Division. That's Take-Two's smaller publishing title. Or maybe it's not smaller, maybe it's the full publishing group now. But yeah, so they dropped that. Bloober Team continues to have some issues there with getting games out and stuff. I still want to see what they make. But as somebody called them yesterday in chat, Blooper Team. And it does feel like at times that is sort of what it is. Blooper Team.
It's good.
When you guys consider chat, or do you guys consider, like, do you look at leaks? Do you when you see a leak that, let's say, looks real, do you find yourselves engaging in that leak? Looking to read stuff, or are you guys pretty easy, if it's something interesting to you? Like Warhammer stuff, Silver, if there's a leak that there might be a new race coming, do you find yourself interested in looking at those leaks and trying to find out if they possibly are real, or do you just take a hands-off approach?
Yeah, I do. I mean, specifically around Total War, for instance, there's been a number of leaks over the past, I don't know, months and years about what Creative Assembly are working on, what projects, whether it's 40K or more recently Star Wars or whatever it is. And yeah, so there is a sort of interest there in doing detective work and trying to track down where does this come from? Is this a reliable source? And stuff like that. And how reliable is this information? That is something that I engage with. So yeah, it depends on the subject. It depends on the context of the leak. Other times I won't engage with it at all. Obviously,
probably hard to kill your interest.
Yeah, true. But I mean, it also depends on what does it mean engaging with it. Like, am I driving clicks or whatnot? So
I just mean personally. Yeah.
But I mean, definitely at times I will purposefully not go to certain sources because I don't want to drive clicks towards those sources and whatnot. So in those ways, I do restrain myself from times.
Kotaku. What about you, Johnny?
I don't like seeing stuff early because also I don't know if it's real. You know, like Spider-Man 2 had leaks, right? Had like some big leaks. I wasn't interested in seeing any of it because, you know, they didn't want to show it. So in a way, either it wasn't ready or that's not how they wanted to show it. I don't know. I don't have a need to see it as soon as possible, you know?
Right.
If I know something is being made, I would rather have it be presented to me in the way that the creators want rather than see some haphazard leak.
Yeah. I will also say I'm also less incentivized to like get specifically gameplay leaks. Isn't so much an interest as like specific leaks about what people are working on is more what I'm.
I like. That's exactly where I am. I definitely like to know what people are working on, the decisions, all that kind of stuff. Gameplay, I know it's early usually when a leak is a real leak and it's like, hey, we've leaked Wolverine. I'm like, well, I'll go look at it maybe, but I pretty much know if it's 2 years out, this thing's going to look rough and not at all what the game will look like. So I usually don't find myself incredibly excited for looking into that. But I definitely like to know the decisions and, you know, if there's a leak on how people are doing stuff technically. I love that. I love those kind of things. But it's hard not to drive clicks, right? Because you just want data on your favorite thing. It's difficult. Right. Damage code, $2
super. Like leaks on labor disputes and stuff like that also interests me.
On the business, the big business kind of stuff. That makes sense. Jonathan Williams, welcome to being a member. Appreciate it. You definitely help the channel. Anybody else who wants to help the channel, I would love for you to open this video up as a separate video and comment on it or thumbs it up. It does help the channel immensely. So does iTunes reviews, right? Spotify, iTunes, whichever. Reviews absolutely help the channel get noticed. Damage code, $2 super chat. I missed it in the last week's podcast, he says later, but peanut, M&M, and Skittles. Blah. We were talking about candy again. That's disgusting. Not, at least not mixed. That would be grotesque. Whew. I don't know.
Saying peanut M&Ms are better than Skittles?
Yeah, I think he's talking about a podcast even earlier than last week, but we were talking about, everybody was talking about like candies, and I think he's talking about mixing them, which is just nasty. Stringwing says, not interested in leaks much because of surprise. Always watch reviews before purchasing anyway, so I suppose sort of doing the same. Appreciate ACG reviews for trying to lessen the spoilers. I say try. He didn't say try, but I try because it's hard to not spoil something because I don't know what somebody's level of spoiler is.
Yeah, it's impossible not to spoil something. Yeah,
it's impossible to not be spoiled on Final Fantasy if you watch an official trailer. Those guys love to put spoilers in their trailers. They'll show a death, man. They'll be like, this guy's dying.
This main character's blood is being splashed all over this kid's face in the trailer.
Yeah, it shows their head being cut in half, and that's the player character, and you're like, wait, what? Like, am I being replaced halfway through? Dude, Square is just out there when it comes to their trailers, and
they are,
And what's even funnier is you'll get, asked to cover games, and a lot of times they'll be really strict on covering games, and you're all, dude, you do realize that's
your trailer went your trailers way over. Yeah.
Don't show the title screen. You're like, dude, that's how you loaded the first trailer. Like, I don't understand. Yeah, I'm always confused by that. A couple questions. Anybody who knows, I'm on Jeremy Penter or at Jeremy Penter on Twitter, and I think I'm ACG on whatever, Blue Sky and all that. But I like to ask daily questions of different things. And the other question I had asked was, what is the best intro? And a lot of developers answered. First off, Stasis Bone Totems developers popped in with the first answer, and they said Half-Life 2's intro is amazing, part tutorial, part narrative. I actually think Half-Life 1's intro is better than 2. Do you guys disagree, agree? You do? You agree, Johnny?
I think... I don't think it... I don't know that I agree, but I definitely... I mean, I don't think it's... I don't have any issue with it at all because I mean the introduction to City 17 in Half-Life 2 I think is really strong. For a lot of the same reasons I think the opening to Half-Life 1 is also, but I think what really sets the opening to Half-Life 1 apart for me is that it was just unprecedented at the time.
Exactly. It drove forward intros for years of like let's show the world. and everywhere
Yeah,
you're
I mean
gonna go.
the way you go in on the monorail as Gordon Freeman, yeah, and you see all the places that you go later
Oh,
as
it's
you
so
as you
good.
explore Black Mesa, and it really
That's
establishes
cool.
this, like the scale of the facility. And then you go and you start the humdrum routine of it's just another work day. Like we're doing all these meaningless little routine tasks, and then everything goes haywire, and extra dimensional beings invade. Yeah, it's just I think it remains one of the best openings ever to a video game.
It's iconic, man. That beginning is iconic. We also have, let's see, Alejandro says, this could be cliche, but Ankara of Time's intro splash screen was and is still amazing. Richard Hogue from Hogue Law says, Hogue, I always get that wrong. Final Fantasy VI, score and cinematic presentation. Carly says, it would be easy to say Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy X as the all-time greats, but man, the Borderlands 2 intro still does it for me. Ooh, Borderlands 2 is a good intro. I hadn't thought about that one. You know, I never think about the intro to Borderlands because they're so gameplay-centric.
It's funny because
a good example. Sorry.
I came to hate that intro because I started many characters, right? Borderlands 2. And you had to play through this initial segment, which is kind of slow. It's in the snow. You don't quite have guns yet. And it's like, you know, you remember every line by memory. It just kind of became very tiresome. Yeah. But it was good if you didn't just play it to death.
Right. Mass Effect 2 is unbelievable. This is funny because it's in the worst entry, and now it's in the best entry. Mass Effect 2.
Oh, that's like Hellblade. Some people said, you know, amazing.
Yeah, dude, I love Hellblade 2's intro.
Hellblade 2.
But I also understand 100% where you're coming from. I get it. David.
The wounded walking is a pet peeve of mine in games, dude. You know, when you're like, and it is
a slow, glacially slow
starting. It makes
starting.
sense, though, because she got the crap beaten out of her.
And it beats it absolutely annihilates the slowness of Red Dead 2. Makes Red Dead 2's starting look flicky fast. But because of the story that was being told by the voices, it worked for me. But I absolutely
they pulled it off.
understand why somebody would say, my God, man. John from Digital Foundry even said, he's like, it is really slow, and he liked it. Nate says, being a big Assassin's Creed fan, when the title logo hit for the first time in Assassin's Creed Odyssey after the intro, you know, that's the thing, guys.
Yeah.
Remember, so it used to be the title screen, go in, game. And then, I don't know who first did it, but you get the title screen later in the game. And I dig that. There is something awesome about that cinematic approach of, like, in Odyssey, I know the exact part because I just played it, where you go up, you've unlocked that first place, and it goes back, and it's like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And it's just got that fucking, it hits, man. It something about that middle moment that hits really well. Some other ones we got here. Of course, Tobias says the intro to the original BioShock. Yeah, that one was fantastic.
Yeah, classic.
I have 500 answers, so I'm not going to go through all these. These questions
I want to mention
explode.
one thing, though. Do you remember in God of War, like I want to say the first one, but not like the old one from the modern God of War.
I get you.
Right.
Where like you're in the menu, right? And I think you click like start. You go like start game.
Tree logging.
And it transitions seamlessly, almost like it's in the same.
So
that
good.
Felt like magic at the time. Kind of like what you were saying, because it's the first time I saw that in a game. Never thought like it was possible like that. That was awesome.
Daz says the opening sequence to Prey 2016. I would agree. That one is fantastic. At the risk of sounding insanely basic, the God of War original cold open has yet to be topped. It's long enough ago, I can't remember that one. I'll have to go look it up. Kyle Hickerson says Arkham City. They opened how the story direction was going to go, and in the midst of it all, they gave you glimpses of Arkham City. So there we go. There's another Half-Life 1 kind of beginning where you get to see the world prior, and it fits. There's something about it that's so sexy because it also reminds you that this world exists prior to you opening some level and having it pop up. When you get
and
to
you said cinematic, that's cinematic too, because they do that in movies all the time.
Absolutely.
Here's a normal day in the city, and it kind of gives you a glimpse on like a normal life, and then that's the backdrop and the contrast to all the crazy stuff that's about to happen.
A lot of people are saying, man, a lot of people are saying God of War 3. God of War 3, God of War 3, Half-Life 1, God of War 3, BioShock, God of War 2 and 3, Firewatch's intro. Yeah, Firewatch's intro. Firewatch I liked a lot, but boy, that game could get slow. But the intro is pretty good.
Yep. Yeah,
I was sort of let down by Firewatch because I thought the ending would be, well,
it was very flaccid. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, flaccid is a good. I mean, yeah, it was.
Well, it's kind of like an erection problem where it's like it's going pretty well,
and then it just drops out when you think about like
and
baseball.
then it kind of drops off completely. Yeah, completely.
A lot of people saying Prey, Kingdom Hearts, Red Dead Redemption 2 has been on the hated and loved. So there you go. People can be wrong. I'm just joking. Onimusha 3, sorry, has been announced or has been listed 3 or 4 times. Now I don't remember the beginning of that one.
Me neither.
Yeah, not at all. BioShock, Diablo 2. Any other surprising ones? Halo 1. See, I thought Halo 1's entry is really good, but it doesn't hit very hard for me. Like, because it's in the midst of the story, and then you see the ship, and then you have to run around without a gun. And
yeah,
I don't know, like, I liked it at the time, and I still like it, but it doesn't hit hard until you get in your car. Sorry, it crash lands. The capsule. When you come out, and back then, those graphics, you know,
you see the halo.
Yeah, dude. When you saw
it
looked
cool.
like it was just stretching above you, and you're all, oh man, here we go.
The scale.
Yep.
And I asked in chat what we got. Here we go. I really like God of War 3. There's another one. Metal Gear Rising, Devil May Cry 4, Another World. Another World is a fantastic beginning, by the way. Do you remember that one, Silver? The Another World. So good beginning. Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4. Man, I don't remember the beginning for Resident Evil 4.
That's Leon arriving at the village and the like leading to the like the villagers the mass crowd attacking.
The mass crowd.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Fallout 3. Let's see. Inquisition. Oh, Inquisition first boss fight. Okay, well that's not the same as the beginning, but I get you because I was like, what? And then Hyoji, sorry, I'm pronouncing that wrong. Doom 2016. So Doom 2016 was brought up a couple times, actually, as I think that was brought up in Twitter and then in the other social medias. Yeah, so that one's
I think it definitely belongs in the conversation. Yeah.
So let me give you one that I think adds context to the game and is phenomenally cinematic but doesn't hit hard that I really liked, and that is I really did like Alan Wake 2's beginning. I actually enjoyed that. I don't think it hits hard or it like does much, but I liked that it delivered a sort of a Twin Peaks feel. I liked the way it hit. I think Alan Wake 1 was a little, it feels older now when you play it. You're like, all right, you know, you get in a car, you get in a wreck, and it sort of begins the same, in weird ways, the same way as 2 in cars. But Halo 2? Halo 2's opening, I don't even remember. I haven't played Halo 2 in a while.
I think the attack on Earth, isn't it?
Oh, is that the attack on Earth? I thought that was 3. No, you're right. That is the attack on Earth. That's a pretty good one. Okay. Yeah. Last of Us. I think The Last of Us, I wasn't a big fan of the beginning. About 25 minutes in, when certain things happen, I can see why people like. But I thought the beginning was pretty slow in a good way. I didn't have
agree.
It was a guy.
It made sense for the game, but it was a slow. Yeah. Dude, I like, Zelda, and I'm not a big Zelda fan, but like actually both of them, Breath of the Wild with opening to the world, and then Tears of the, what's it called?
Kingdom.
Tears,
Can we?
When you drop down.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, the walk down I did not like, where you're with the princess and you have to wait for her to stop and look at some rocks.
No, that part, I blocked that out of my memory because that sucked. I directly skipped to the good part.
Dude, you did. You skipped it because when you get to that first scene in that game and it opens up and you're like, boom. So String Wing
remove your powers and it's just...
String Wing gave my answer, which is Far Cry 5. Even though I know the game didn't hit all the way through, I did like the the beginning of Far Cry 5.
Ubisoft helicopter.
Yeah, going in
People
and
should
first
never
meeting
get
the character.
on helicopters.
Dude, I know. If you're a hero
Yeah.
in a movie, don't get in helicopters.
Don't.
Right? Like, walk. Because there's a good chance you're going to beat them anyway, because they're going to
If
crash
it's
on the
the
way there or
opening,
crash on the way out.
It for
Yeah.
sure will
If
crash.
it's the opening,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're ever a video game character and you get warped into a digital world, don't get on the fucking helicopter. It's obviously a
Right.
trap. Like, every time in every game. It's, let's jump on the helicopter. We're going to fly right there. It's a quick jaunt. And you're like, nah, I've seen Black Hawk Down.
Except
It's-
the alternate ending to Far Cry 4, I think, right? Where you
I
wait
loved that.
and
dude.
Pagan
Min.
Min takes you to the helicopter.
Yeah,
with him.
and just
Ah.
says, let's
And you
let's
fly away,
party
yeah.
or whatever, and you fly away.
Yeah.
True. That was a really good. Listen, it didn't require much more than a timer and a new cutscene, but I gotta hand it to him. I sort of dig those little secrets, those
Right.
little goofy
Yeah.
things.
Yep.
That to me is like magic. It's all, and some jackass, me as a reviewer, streamer, or you guys when you get it, we're all gonna try. If they say wait, you're all fuck you. You better go get to work. And you're like, I'm doing what you say. You're like a child. You're like somebody when they're told to mow the lawn. And it worked so well in that game. That was fantastic. I'm glad you brought that one up. If you're a helicopter pilot, don't go into any Resident Evil universe. Yeah, true. Helicopters have to have
Poor
a
Brad
zero
Vickers.
success. Yeah, they have to have a zero success. I'm sticking with Final Fight and Double Dragon as the best beginnings. BioShock. Titanfall 2. Yeah, Titanfall 2. Just a good game overall. And then Sleeping Dogs had a great chase scene at the beginning. It did. Sleeping Dogs, did that start in the car? It might have.
Don't remember the opening to Sleeping Dogs at all, honestly.
I feel like it zooms into the car, but now I feel like it... Oh, see, yeah, that's the problem, right? What it begins as and then where it hits might be 15, 20 minutes. I'm just trying to remember.
I think it
Spider-Man...
might have been like an on-foot chase.
That's what I thought too.
don't
For some
remember.
reason, I thought you had a fight and then there's the car chase afterwards, but I could be wrong. And then, the turd says, this is his name, the third turd. He says, Spider-Man 2's intro sequence was incredible, and I agree. Some people weren't a fan of it for whatever reason, but I thought Spider-Man 2's entrance was phenomenal, fighting Sandman.
Yeah.
I thought that was just like, and it was a flex, obviously. It was them saying, look what we can do. Moving on from there, let's talk about something bad. Sims 4 is going to launch a Battle Pass-like event system to reward players with new items for logging in regularly.
Like dailies, stuff like that.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. So they added that they're going to do that. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this Battle Pass thing, it's infecting games even like that, which already has its own issues with DLC, right?
Yep.
Like, if Stellaris did that, I'd kill somebody because it's already got a ton of DLC. And, if you like those kind of games don't need that shit. This Battle Pass thing is it's insane. I don't know why anybody thinks that's a good idea.
We got to retain engagement at all costs.
Well, that is the head of the nail right there. That is what it is it's gone away from the day one sales, which are still important.
Oh,
But
day
it's
after
gone-
day.
It's gone day after day sales. Yeah. And day after day engagement. And the engagement thing has now become, even Sony said, we're not worried as much as sales. We're starting to look at what Microsoft has been doing for years, but it's like, let's start talking about engagement after a year. And then we get this stupid discussion where somebody's like, this single player game doesn't have as many people playing as day one. It's like, no shit, Sherlock. That's how it fucking works. But it does suck, right?
Yep.
You see this, people aren't playing Spider-Man 2 as much. You're like, well, of course. It's been out for a year. Like, it doesn't sell. If it's sold the same day one, goddamn, it'd be 60, it'd be GTA 5, where it just sell billions. Battle Pass daily
that is
weekly.
part of the issue, right? Everyone wants their game to be, or wants
do.
it to be GTA 5.
I think Palworld's the only company I've seen in a long time. And let's be honest, it was social signaling. It was. And that's fine. But they said, go play other things while we add stuff later and then come back. It's a pretty smart way of doing it, though. Be like, we're the ones. We're cool with you not playing every day. We'll add some stuff and then you'll want to come back. But
That was
it was a smart
Helldivers.
way to do it. Helldivers did too, because I know Palworld did it.
Okay.
Yeah,
But,
so
but yeah,
Helldivers...
Peter
You're right.
definitely did.
No, you're right. You're right, they did too. That's true. So 2 of them have done that. Lost Ark devs, somebody said, does something like that. Okay. Well, there you go. There's multiple companies. Reading some of these chats, EA is one of the worst. Really worried to see what BS they pull in college football. I mean, other than that, it's the same game.
Yeah.
After 25 years.
The same thing they've done for,
Yeah.
for 25 years, yeah.
Fresh Death says...
They should change the, like, I know they don't do the it's in the game, like, adage anymore, but it really should always be it's the same game rather than it's in the game.
It's the same game.
It's the same game.
Yeah.
Fresh Till Death says
EA Sports. It's the same game.
Reykjavik or something said this, and I'll say it again. I'd rather play a 3-hour game 30 times than a 30-hour game once. Fucking no way. That is ridiculous. Dude, not in a million years would I want to do that, unless it was like a procedural generated roguelike, Dark Souls-like.
Yeah, see, we do that all the time with roguelites, right? Because it's like a 1-hour run or whatever.
I would definitely not rather play the same game. My God, that many times, especially if it was that short. 3 hours is that to me. Like, at some point, I'm done. Even if I really like the game. Let's see, what else do we have for news, man? Looking here on the news, I played 80 hours of Pizza Tower, and that's a 7-hour game. Somebody said, what's Pizza Tower?
Well, I saw this...
Platformer.
Go for it, Johnny. Oh, platformer.
I saw this post. The post itself is recent on Gaming Bolt, but I don't know if the news is news, because it kind of rings a bell, so maybe you guys already talked about it, but this is about Avowed moving to Unreal Engine 5. Again, the article is very recent, but kind of rings a bell that you guys already talked about it, but I didn't know until now, or I didn't catch it. So that's pretty cool. So they moved their development to Unreal Engine 5, but they're still aiming for this year, right? For the release of the game.
Yeah, so this was known. I don't know exactly how it started, but it might have been, this is going to sound weird, it might have been such a small deal that, because remember, they're going from 5.2 to 5.3. They're not going from 4 to 5.
Oh, I thought it was. Okay,
no,
gotcha.
No, but what it has is it's got like optimizations. It's got fixes for stuff. I mean, and they should, by the way, if they can do that, because the new version of whatever engine. But yeah.
But it's not like they will have access to some different lighting or like...
Well, they can have they can certainly have different systems for that, depending on which version it is. I don't know if 5.3 has,
if it's different enough. Yeah.
But 5.3, if I'm remembering right, has been out for a while. So because I think they're at 5.4 or even beyond that. But yeah, so they're moving up, and that's great. You want to see, as long as they can, and there's nothing that gets broken with what they're doing. If they've added a bunch of special stuff, a company may not want to. I like the idea, because normally you wouldn't see a company like Unreal say, hey, 5.4 worse than 5.3. That would be ridiculous. It's usually an improvement. So we're hoping that they move if they can. Yeah, it's good news. I think, most people probably looked at it as,
pretty minor.
Yeah, versus, let's say we were working on Unreal 3 and now we're doing 5. You'd be all, dude, okay, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Dazzle. Not to deball any improvements that 5.3 has, but yeah. Avowed still has some rough combat. I need to see some more footage of Avowed to really know where we're going with that. I'm excited for it, but I feel like the trailers haven't done it whatever service I need from it to see and be super excited. I think that's what I'm waiting for. Ko Than says, glad to listen to most of this live. Fun as always as I play No Man's Sky New Expedition. Thanks for the entertainment. I'll throw in the super chat when I can. No worries, man. But what I would like to know is, can you give me a little bit of data about what you think of the new expansion? Because I don't know if you guys saw this. No Man's Sky normally does a little bit more spaced expansions, but released the one in the last day or two. And it's a new universe, dead, no sentient, intelligent life, but there is still aliens. And it's far more of a survival, dark, like, kind of, I sort of like the idea. Will I jump into it? No. But I love the idea. It's too much, man. I'll play I was just getting to grips with building my base and, like fighting off pirates and getting freighters. So Anybody going to either one of you guys see No Man's Sky in your future?
Unfortunately, not. Probably not. No.
Okay. I think that's fair. Nothing against it, obviously. But what about you, Johnny?
No. It's just huge scale of like time and.
Yeah, you're not going into it for 5 minutes, right? You're not gonna.
Yeah.
What's the term? I'm gonna log in to check what the improvements are. Their updates are never that small.
No, yeah, it's not like going into Truck Simulator saying, "Oh, I'm just gonna haul this cargo from here to there," and then.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna do one run. One run turns into 8 hours later, and you're stuck on a demonic planet. What about you, Johnny? Any?
I might go back. I have come back to it over the years for different things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mostly interested in the base building stuff for that game, rather than like anything combat related or like raids or anything like that.
Yeah. And then we got questions from Discord peeps. So the Discord peeps are peeps who throw in, I think Discord's at $5. They jump in, we get to do trailers, watch videos, we watch the stream together, do some streaming as well, but they also ask questions for us to cover. Master Paz says, do you guys think our great-great-grandchildren will see the release of Bloodborne PC port? So much cynicism on that. That's just dripping.
It's dripping.
You say no. You think that for whatever reason is like not gonna just.
I don't think we'll ever see a Bloodborne PC port. No.
I feel
maybe if there's a Bloodborne sequel, we'll see a port for that, possibly.
Right. That's a good point.
For the first Bloodborne game, you're never going to see a PC port for that.
Damn, he put his foot down. What about you, Johnny? Are you putting your foot down, or are you a little bit more?
Well, the way I look at it is that it's such a ripe business opportunity that if they could have done it,
yeah,
I think they would have done it already, because it's a very easy lift. We've seen many times where they can hire a separate company to do remaster, recolor, whatever, and bring it. But I think there may be either technical or licensing problems or things like that just make it impossible.
I think it's similar to why we still haven't seen a Red Dead Redemption PC port.
Yeah, and there were rumors, there was that leak where there was some tag information in something somewhere that it even showed the announcement. I haven't checked to verify that, but he's right. I mean, Red Dead took years. I also think it could be a get out of jail free card.
We never got one.
Not
for
yet.
The first
no.
Red Dead.
No, for sure. We have not. Yeah. This was just recent, though, that there was a leak that in some patch or data in RDR2 somebody found it. But it's a data miner. We don't know. But I was just going to say that not only do I agree with that, I think it might be a get out of jail free card for them, like Japan is for Assassin's Creed and Forza, that it's a break glass kind of situation where if they need it, they can pull it out as a, maybe they have a game that doesn't do well or something, or maybe they only want to break glass because they know there's a bunch of stuff they need to fix. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. But, I mean, the hacked PlayStation 5's played at 60 FPS. So it's doable. I'd love to see it. But, yeah, they're definitely holding on to it, right? They're holding on to it like a protected baby. I don't know why. It's like a homeschooled child. The parents are just super overprotective of it, and they're not letting it out. I don't know. Maybe they don't see sales in it for some reason, but that would be weird, right? I mean, it's one of the most beloved. Yeah. I don't know the sales for Bloodborne, so I don't know. Maybe there's some sales thing we don't understand, but
yeah,
I'd like to see it.
I think the bigger question that's up in the air, as Chad also mentions, is Half-Life 3.
That's a meme at this point.
Remember when Reg said it was going to be a card game and we almost died?
Yeah.
Dude. Right. Do you know what I think about Half-Life? It is. Silver, I'm wondering if Half-Life is like... So they want to sell an Index 2 at some point, right? Or maybe it's just that Valve has enough money that they are just waiting to do the Half-Life stuff on VR only. Because Half-Life Alyx never got a flat port. People ported it using tools, but we haven't got a real flat one. So I don't know. And didn't a couple voice actors die from the original game? I'm almost 100% sure at least one of the major voice actors.
Robert Guillaume, who plays Alex's father.
Yeah. That's true. Nathan says Sony leaks said Over
So
7 million.
I
on
think he
Bloodborne. Ooh, that's
dies
lower than I thought it was gonna be.
in Half-Life 2. I don't remember.
Oh, well,
honestly.
then it's not. I mean, all
I
things
don't
being said,
remember.
it may not impact it. Okay. And then Spetsu says, watching the trailers for Precinct reminded me of games like Emergency or Evil Genius, where you play as the other side. Instead of committing murders and stealing cars, you're chasing criminals. Instead of destroying cities, you're saving them. Instead of chasing the main villain, you become one. Are there any games or genres where you'd like to switch sides like this? So, a narrative flip. Games or genres? Dude, I love Tyranny, which switched it. Tyranny, you were the main bad lord in a Pillars of Eternity style game. So, I love Tyranny. You liked the shooter game where... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say you liked the Desert Storm shooter game where you turned out to be the bad guy.
Spec Ops: The Line.
Spec Ops: The Line. But sorry, I interrupted you. Go for it.
It just like it is one of the things I really enjoy about Warhammer 3 Total War is like flipping between playing the ostensibly order factions like the dwarves, the elves, man, and then going to play like a chaos faction, demons or living ratmen.
Absolutely true.
Or whatever, and you can just go wherever you and there are different flavors of the different evil factions and whatnot. So that's really fun, like flipping between that. And this is main sort of driver from maintaining my interest in the game.
What about you, Johnny? Any you'd like to see a reverse?
I think maybe Arkham would be cool if you could have like, Joker and his gang.
Would you like to be Joker, or would you like to be a made man yourself and maybe make your villain and be... By the way, that's not a fair... That's probably not a fair comparison, but you get my drift. Or would it be Joker?
If you could be like a custom character within the game.
But that's not really fair because then you could just make Joker if you wanted. So in the end, custom helps you do all that. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that would be cool. We don't see it a ton, right? Because even when you're like an anti-hero, you're still a hero. Like Suicide Squad, you're still a good guys. Like it's always... I think they are uncomfortable making you the
that serious bad guy.
There was a game called Contract Jack that was kind of an offshoot of No One Lives Forever, where you play as sort of a hitman for the evil organization in No One Lives Forever called Harm. You play as a hitman for that organization called Jack. That
man, I don't remember that.
I think I don't think you're the only one who hasn't heard of it. It wasn't very widely received. It also get that positive reviews back in the day, but that as a concept was really interesting.
I would like Red Dead style game, but you're a sheriff and you have to use the Deadeye system to take down guys by shooting their hands, and you couldn't kill bad guys, or you got maybe you lost your job or whatever. But I don't know if that's a full game. Well, you could be Pinkerton. You could be Pinkerton, but in the end, you're sort of... That already happens in Red Dead a little bit. There's already... you can already hunt outlaws. But I think Red Dead 2 sort of fits it. Or if it was a Red Dead 3 where you were somehow a lawman who couldn't... you really had to follow the ideals of it. You'd have to make it really hit hard, or it wouldn't work. That's hard to do, man.
What about Helldivers? If you're the bugs.
Oh, dude, that'd be fun. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like a hive mind because you can control all of them.
Yep.
Right? And you communicate. So you say like, no, you guys go here. And like, and you have to deal with the pesky.
Make it an asymmetrical PvP game where somebody... another player gains control of it. Yeah.
Soul Sleeper says an awesome idea. XCOM, but you're playing as the aliens invading.
Oh.
That would be phenomenal.
That would.
Yeah, that's probably the best answer I've heard so far.
Oh, dude, I would be the snakes that always dodge the attacks.
Fuck.
I would just be... I would place myself bang on in the middle of the arena.
And just dodge every attack. Rocket launchers, helicopters from Resident Evil landing, and you'd still dodge it. You'd be like, whoosh, no worries. That snake bastard. Yeah, he can screw off. I hated that bastard. Yeah, dude, there are some, but you're right, Johnny. A lot of anti-hero games sort of fit it anyway. Whether you be the anti-hero good guy trying to be a hero or trying to be good, or a bad guy trying to be good, or a good guy who does bad stuff.
We see it even in shows like Dexter, where you're expressly a bad guy, serial killer, but actually, he is in comparison because he actually goes up against other serial killers. So in a way, by contrast, he's good, right? So it's anyway, there is that thing where they always have to have a spin.
SBZ says Gears of War Tactics, but you play as the Locust. I think that kind of stuff fits pretty well. XCOM Gears of War Tactics was awesome. I just want to see a Gears of War Tactics again. I don't think we will. Baseball Gears says, do you think people are tired of hero arena shooters? It seems that Concord has received overly negative reception by being just another generic Overwatch clone. Yup.
That's the big question, right? I mean, like I asked earlier, is it that there hasn't been a game to sort of satisfy the demand, or is it that that demand just isn't there for that type of shooter anymore? That the market has moved on.
Also, Silver, I think the other thing is over negative reaction or over positive reaction doesn't equal sales or engagement or whatever until the day it comes out, right?
And that's also just like the immediately visible thing that you see on social media.
Yeah.
That isn't necessarily representative of what the reaction is.
Yeah. It's so true these days, right? I mean, you think something's going to hit and you look at it and you're like, oh, this will definitely, and then it just, even if it's good, it just doesn't catch on. We've seen it many times. Good games that do not catch on, bad games that do are a thing too.
Yeah. Remember Lords of the Fallen had huge attention, people looking at watching videos and consuming content before it dropped. And then when it came out, actually, not a lot of people played it. Not a lot of people talked about it. It kind of came and went. It was a solid game, had some issues, but either way, felt like there was a huge anticipation for it. And then,
do you know the other one, Johnny? Same time frame? Jedi Survivor.
Yeah,
Jedi Survivor had a lot of positive hitting before it released because it was Cameron returning. It was like, hey, Jedi Survivor, we're doing away with some of the stuff. We're adding customization. We're doing this. We're doing that. And then it landed like a steaming pile of turds. But but that one on the technical side was so egregious that it was understandable. Biggest issue with this is Blue Sunrise. Biggest issue with Concord is the character design seemed derivative and unappealing. I would agree with that, but I would also say that that's for all of these games. But it also depends on what you find. And somebody's brand new to this genre. They may not be interested in Overwatch, but they see this and it's their first one. And they're like,
you know what's different though with this type of game? Normally what you see is if you're a fan of a type of game, when there's more of the same, you're probably happy. So example, you're a PoE fan. Well, if there's another ARPG that looks good, you're probably going to like it, right?
Yeah.
You're probably going to play it. But with these types of games, because they're so ongoing.
Focused on the hero as well.
Yeah. So if you already found a game that you really like and resonate with, for example, maybe Overwatch, maybe you got some heroes you really like. You have hero mastery, right? That you've developed over the years. You actually don't want to switch to a different hero shooter. You want to stick with that one, right? You're developing your mastery, just like League of Legends, You're not interested in switching to Dota or, So there's a thing for staying with the game rather than looking for another one. So there's resistance.
The best example of moving and failing utterly is South Park. Changing to that 3D shooter thing. Whatever was going on, however that became an idea is mind-blowing that was made. And you see these two games that are stellar, that get amazing. I mean, they're loved by people. They're loved by critics. Great reception. And we saw that first trailer. And I mean, you're just like, but why? What? Why? why is this even
you-
looking like
You
this?
just hear the echoes of the flapping turd on.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So we definitely do see it. Good question there, very much. Thank you, Baseball Gear, for that question. Next up for other questions, Frankie Donut says, where wins meet could be an interesting one out of the group. Was hoping for a Phantom Blade update. Yeah, that's true. We didn't get that. Gaming Guitar Alejandro says, I'm sure that there have been, but I figured I'd still ask if any of you have dealt with moments in time where you felt like you made the right decision about something and yet those around you keep saying otherwise. Huh. Yeah. I mean,
People telling you made the wrong decision.
yeah. I mean, it's like a lot of them are probably going to be personal, so we don't have to get into it. But yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff every day. Terrence says every day. Well, if you're a murderer and people telling you, quit it. You can't kill this guy. Stop killing. And you keep doing it. Maybe you're in the wrong. But dude, yeah, I mean, how many times? I don't have a lot of people telling me you did wrong that I trust. You know, you might have somebody be like, you're wrong on a review. I'm like, whatever, that's fine. But a friend telling you is usually less often. And that is why I was saying it's probably personal. If you have your friends telling you every day you're doing something wrong, either you got the weird wrong friends or you might be doing something wrong. If everybody's like, dude, occasionally shower, and you're like, nah, don't need to. I'm going to go out on a date without doing it. And they're telling you probably should shower. They're probably right. Is there any that we can talk about that aren't super personal that have come up that like, but I mean, we make decisions for ourselves that it doesn't matter if people think it's wrong. It's right for you.
I mean, I've had it where a friend was giving me some feedback that I thought wasn't correct. You know, they had a read on something and they said, listen, you know, you should have taken more ownership in the situation. And I didn't think it was fair feedback because I apologized to the person at the time. You know, it felt to me like I had.
Yeah.
So I think there are times where someone, out of good intentions, they give you some feedback and it's actually not good feedback or not correct or doesn't line up with the reality. And at the end of the day, you're the person who knows what that experience was like for you. So, you know, you're the best judge of that at that point, as long as you're being honest with yourself. So yeah, sometimes it does happen that, you know, you have to trust your instincts with those things as well.
Yeah, I think also when you look, like that sort of rain becomes a puddle kind of analogy where the puddles are the decisions, but it's raining everywhere and there's other things going on. Your decision is a one challenge point that people in the world see. They don't see the thousands and upon millions of things that might have led up to that decision. And sometimes you don't want to explain it. You know, somebody's like, well, why did you do this? And you're all, you don't understand. Like, I'm well past that. I got to this point of deciding this by analyzing all the stuff for me. I'm not going to tell you how I analyzed everything. You know, sometimes it's just like, I'm just doing this choice and moving on. And good friends usually will understand that. But, you know, it happens where like you said, somebody's trying to give you good, you know, feedback they think is, you know, very worthwhile. And sometimes they're definitely right. You know, you'll do some, you know, I've done something in front of family or said something mean in front of family, or, you know, and somebody be like, dude, that was pretty harsh. Bill, what do you mean?
Yeah.
It didn't seem harsh to me. And then you realize, oh, it might have been harsh this one time, but it's also one point in history. So unless you're just evil, like I said, unless you're killing everybody, then for the most part, we all live our own lives. I don't really listen too much to that kind of stuff. Have friends that feed back on the stuff that you know they're experts on too, because you don't want the wrong expert. You know, you don't put a baker in a rowboat and say like, save me. It's not going to work. Let's see. Moving on from there. Oh, go for it. If you had
particularly, I've been engaged in like activist politics for a long time, and I've been engaged in it largely on the left-wing side of politics, where there tends to be a lot of infighting. So, I mean, that's been that is pretty much par for the course of that environment, is constant second guessing of what people are doing, whether they're doing it for the right reasons, and gatekeeping in particular. Like, oh, you're not a true such and such because of you don't hold to that particular standard that we or I have built personally, that we're then going to call you out for, or whatever it is. Like it's a constant source of friction in that environment.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of even what choice you would make where I'm trying to think of what my friends would do. I mean, I guess if you have a vice, like a really bad, like let's say you're a drug user, that might,
like,
you know what I mean? I'm trying to think because luckily, yeah, something like that where it's like all the time, or you're just eating super poorly and you just had a heart attack, and one of your friends is like, dude, seriously? And that is also just at that point on you as well. Like it's difficult, especially like I said, without talking too personally. It's a good question, but yeah, I'm sure it's happened to all of us, right? It's happened to all of us. Sometimes you just have to move on. Cheese's Crust 713 says, I was speaking with a friend that only has PlayStation 5 and was a little stunned at how many new games he's still able to play even after 4.51 years. Oh, PlayStation Network or whatever it's called. PlayStation Premium. I was surprised at how many games he was still able to play. My question is, do you guys still feel console generations are as important as previous gens with such a large amount of titles being cross-gen? So, has the network backward compatibility / subscription services neutered a bit of the generational console mattering as much? PlayStation 4 to 5, Xbox to Xbox S and X.
I don't think so, because the jump between PlayStation 4 and 5 is pretty huge. I mean, you know, my PlayStation 4 could barely run Red Dead Redemption 2, which admittedly was an amazing looking game, but still, like, you know, it would implode. Yeah. I would play that for 2 hours. I would have to shut down the console. And PS5, you can play some incredible games at 60, which is amazing. So it's definitely a pretty significant jump.
What about you, Silver?
I don't think it's neutered it. I probably wouldn't frame it that way. I do think we've seen substantial jumps. I mean, less so between, like, say, the Xbox One X and the Series X. I think there's less of a jump there than between, let's say, the PS4 and the PS5, right? But I think it's definitely there. Like, I think we have seen huge improvements on the technical side. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe more frame rate. But really, I mean, for me, the consoles are, but they have been for a long time. But they're at a technical side where I'm fine with where they are, where I don't really need to see a huge, like, graphical fidelity leap or resolution leap or stuff like that. I'm more interested in the other stuff, storage and whatnot, like more logistics than those tech specs.
Lucitan was saying 40. This is something that was officially announced. 49% of PS Plus players are still on PS4. I think that makes sense. I think the cross-gen makes sense. I think backwards compatibility eats away a little bit at what gens are, because, you know, you may and forward
for sure they do.
Compatibility does. Yeah, so forward and backwards compatibility is more easy now because of the switch to the different ways in which we do things now with X64 stuff. I don't know, man. It's one of those things where I also believe that new gamers are coming in that have a different thought process than old ones, and this is backed up by all the research, which is that, like, you know, some people are accustomed to moving tech much more quickly than older grognards of gaming. You know, a 40-year-old might remember gens in the way that we remember, where an Apple user just goes iPhone to iPhone to iPhone to iPhone to iPhone to iPhone. And they jump from thing to thing at a much higher rate. And it's, I mean, I think that if these consoles come out with something major and impactful, the SSD is huge to me. The SSD is noticeable as a jump.
For sure.
So I think it has made a pretty big jump. I can play old games and I can stay with PS4, but when I see some games on an Xbox Series S or X with SSD, and I see with the PlayStation 5, I'm like, oh, wow, loading time after a while does become an issue if you have a game that maybe you're dying a lot or what have you. I'm just, talking on my ass here, but I'm just saying different things that maybe the reason for upgrading is slightly different. There might be a slightly different thing. But I was taught, you guys know Cadiz, that guy still has a PS4 and is happy as a clam. He might have a Pro, but he's happy as a clam with it. Like, is there a couple games he can't play? Yeah. But he's still able to play a majority, so the move is less important. So I get where he's coming from, but then somebody like me, where I look at it, the move is important still. And so I want to jump into it. It's a little all over the place, I will say that. It's a good question, and I know we didn't answer it exactly at the starting, but I think we got to the head of it. Big Mac says, last night's PlayStation event had me realize that the perceived direction of Xbox and PlayStation from several years ago has switched. Back in 2018, MS seemed to focus on multiplayer and looked at live service games. Sony was known for its heavy emphasis on single. There was even a false narrative being spread. The Scalebound got canceled by Xbox because they wanted it to be multiplayer. Yeah. Fast forward to 2024, most of Sony's first are going to be live service, and Helldivers was a massive hit for them. Meanwhile, most of Xbox's recent releases and most of their announced future titles are single-player focused, and there's very little hint of the publisher releasing any new service games, with their service games either being pre-existing, like Sea of Thieves, or legacy franchises, like Gears and Halo. Gears not having a new title for 5 years at this moment. Are there some major titles I've missed, or is that a safe observation?
Yeah, I would say the Forza games are also service games.
Absolutely. 1,000%. And I would say that we probably just haven't heard of some of the ones, and Microsoft probably hit service games faster than Sony because they went with that faster. So it seems like companies, but Microsoft's also trying to hit their weaknesses, and Sony's trying to hit their weaknesses. And Nintendo's weakness, hardware and online, apparently is being taken care of by Switch 2. So to me, I don't see much of a difference. I just see them having weaknesses, and they're all trying to hit as many customers as they can. The weakness is lost sales, right? They want sales. So if they're a good business and they see a weakness somewhere, they're either going to try to figure out a way to save money, which both companies have done by firing developers and condensing, but we also see them spreading their wings into locations we never expected. And we're getting that too. I think it's safe observation, but I don't necessarily know if it's changed other than companies looking for different ways to make cash. They're companies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what Nintendo actually does with anything online.
Dude.
Like, whether their idea of innovation is just like a social function.
Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Dude, I don't know if you were you on here when I said that's what Switch will be? We'll still be 10 years behind, but even if it is, it'll still be way better than the Switch 1 was in online. Like if they looked at 10 years ago,
at least you can actually send like a chat message or something.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be like, so imagine that thing launches with like Xbox 360 or whatever's network infrastructure.
Yeah.
Be like, that's a win for old Nintendo. Get rid of them friend codes, which I don't think they will. Exactly. They'll still have a bunch.
We just moved out of 56K. Now we're moving on to gradually.
They'll be like, you can pick up your phone and talk and still have the internet. That's Switch 2. You'll be like, you bastards. Dude, I mean, they all have weaknesses. I'm expecting and excited because we've seen this already where companies are stating we're releasing on all the titles. I want it so that you guys are playing Division 3 and I say I'm going to play Division 3 and we don't have to say what system are you playing it on. I want crossplay. I want cross-save. Crossplay being one of the biggest ones. The ability for one of you guys, I don't know if you were in there, we were trying to play one game of Division and we forgot to ask what everybody's platform was. So everybody jumped into chat.
Oh, God.
And it devolved instantly when somebody said, this is crossplay, and it just was like, oh, no. Yeah. And everybody was like, I have it on this, and it devolved instantly, and that needs to stop for the companies, too. I think that behooves the company, because I don't think it harms the companies at all. There's other ways for them to get you to buy your PlayStation than crossplay being turned off. Like, that's ridiculous. Ubisoft being one of them as not a hardware maker. I want to see that shit. I want to play Crew.
I think it's something that, like, in the public consciousness, it's for the benefit of the platform not the actual game makers.
Yeah, true. Why? Because you think Ubisoft wants to sell 3 versions of Division.
No. I mean, it's not for Ubisoft's benefit. It's for like Sony's benefit. That's been, I think that's been their popular sort of mindset.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, you are absolutely right on that. I totally get what you're saying. Lucidin says Division 3 PC only. Knock it off, Lucidin. Come on. Lift me up here. Sony added studios for live service without getting rid of the single-player studios. That's actually, unfortunately, incorrect. PS now properly in the middle. Let's hope they don't get smashed. But yeah, it's unfortunate that we lost some of the ones that Premiere to me, but probably not Premiere to others. These companies are not done consolidating either. I think people think that after every consolidation, every firing, it's like every dissolving a dev team, that's the end. And it's like, it's never stopped. You know, we'll get some other firing that we'll all be really pissed about in a week. I'm just joking, not a week. Sorry. I'm not calling out anything, saying something's happening. Lucitin talks about the PS5 cloud leaking Destiny 2. Gamers had a field day. We had talked about that, Lucitin. Very sad, but is such a thing. It's just unfortunate. Hopefully it doesn't continue, and hopefully they track them down. Do you guys, is that a felony? It has to be. No, it wouldn't be a felony for them leaking it. Sorry. I meant the hackers. Like if people are hacking, like let's say that's a felony, right? Well, they're not hacking anything now that I think about it.
It's
data miners,
like
that's
stealing
not illegal.
Intellectual property.
No,
to some extent.
I mean, a hacker who hacks PSN network would be. But I was thinking that these guys right now that are doing it, there's nothing more than outrage socially. There's nothing that they're doing that's like,
Yeah.
I just want them to stop, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I mean. I'm just like, man, I wish they'd stop.
I mean, I even wonder if we have sophisticated laws about, video games. I know we have stuff about IPs, but it's all very generic. And some of these things are very video game industry specific. A lot of times the law system is way behind the actual, you know, like we see the stuff with AI where, a problem pops up and, well, we don't have laws for it because it never happened before. And it takes, the law is 10 years behind or something. So,
Johnny, I got a good question for you then. Let's say Ubisoft releases Assassin's Creed Shadows and a tab pops up about an hour in, Nemesis. And it's got everything from WB's patent, but it's the Nemesis system. I don't even know if the law would know what to do. Currently, like, it's obviously an IP patent, but it's like, how would they investigate that to verify what if Ubisoft or some company was smart enough to sort of skirt very close?
See, the law people playing the game like, no, this is definitely Nemesis.
Yeah, you got the lawyers like reading a document over here going, this is like Nemesis a little bit, but they changed the name to Friend. It's like friendality instead of like fatality. You're trying to figure out, what exactly is it?
This enemy got an STD instead of fire resistance, but it's still.
And since he didn't have sex with him, that isn't the exact same thing. You're right. Yeah, law is definitely behind. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, man. That's actually an interesting discussion to have, and one that's well beyond us. What else do we have? Anything that's amazing or new, good, like some good news? Anything amazing that's insanely good news? Or maybe bad. Oh, SBZ says Path of Exile 2 is going to have crossplay. Will it require PSN linking? Yes. Continue. Anything?
That was good news, right? The crossplay. Yeah, I love seeing that. I don't know. Great news. Great news.
All right, even bad news. We got anything amazing? Anything cool? You guys doing anything amazing this weekend? You gonna do board? You gonna do Dice Tower with your parents?
I am doing.
There we go.
I'm doing. What's the name of the game? Dice
Tower. Dice Throne. Dice Throne.
The Marvel edition. Yeah, I was looking into it, figuring out the game rules. It looks pretty good. it's got a mix of like simpler characters, which is nice because then, my mom, she's usually a bit like, takes her a bit longer to figure out stuff, or she gets nervous because she won't know a rule or something. She can jump in and play something a bit easier. So that's cool. Yeah, but overall, the combo of like dice and cards is pretty much a winner straight away.
Dude, it's so good. So good. If there's a digital version, I'd buy 10 copies of that thing and just give it away. I really wish they would start doing more digital versions. They do the occasional one. What about you, Silver? Are you and Lemon Streak doing any board games lately, or are you going to do any museum visits?
This weekend, we are going to do a museum visit, to one of the larger museums here in Copenhagen, more popular museums called the Glyptotek Art Museum. Looking forward
to paintings or what type of
paintings, sculptures? Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Like particularly also they have a lot of classical, like old Greek sculptures and stuff, Roman and stuff. Looking forward to that a lot.
Are you going to go at the proper time this time?
Yeah, I hope so. That's the idea.
Museums have a turn-off time or a closing time, unfortunately.
On the day, like the Danish Constitution Day, it's a day off for people. So that might be like June 5th.
Yeah. This weekend, man, it's just a bunch of shit, fixing some stuff for the YouTube channel. Got the new PC or the mid PC somewhat. Well, it's working. Actually, it's working quite well. Dude, I don't know if I told you, Johnny, I decided, screw it. I'm going to try to see what happens when I uninstall nothing and put a new motherboard and new CPU and new GPU in a PC and just see if it works. So it's the old version of Windows 10, not old version, but it's Windows 10. And I was like, you know what? We always hear switching Intel. This is not a testing rig right now. This is me testing to see what happened. Flawless. Quite interesting. So far, flawless. I've had one glitch that accompanied Windows 10 prior that I knew was going to happen because it seems to be in the monitors and what I have. But I was like, screw it, let's see what happens. So took out the old motherboard, put the new motherboard in, took everything out, threw it in, cloned Windows 10 over, rebooted it, and it was like, you have different hardware, and installed it. And currently my delta between benchmark FPS that I see online and some of the tech YouTubers I talk to is right there. It's at 1%. It's right with everybody else's. And I'm like, I'm just waiting for it to implode. I'm waiting for like Windows Update to say, you have an Intel processor still, and have it be
What if it turns out to be one of those like, like myth busted, where we thought it was a problem to, switch our installation, but actually it's totally fine.
I don't think it is.
Airplane mode
because I'm gonna redo this. I don't think it is. I think it's that bugs on Windows. It happens or it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think there's just like a chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a chance something will go wrong.
Dude, I just became chaotic in the middle of the night. I cut my hand inside of one of the cases and I was putting stuff together and I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not going to waste my time doing all this stuff. I have an image of my old Windows 10. Let's see what happens. I just got tired and I was like, shoved it in there, took the NVMe out and put it in the new one. I turned it on. I was like, let's just see if this thing explodes. And it's like,
for science.
For science. Yeah. Mythbusters.
So what's the idea with the new computer? Is it for something? Is it just
it'll replace the very old. Well, here's what's weird, dude. So the low testing PC for games, 8800 or 8700K, which is some years old, but it still fits within what people are currently playing. Like it's still like pretty good processor for that time. And so I'm removing that one, moving the mid-tier down one that I test on, and then this will be the top tier. So it's just switching. Okay. It's getting rid of that one. We'll donate it. But I just wanted to see like what would happen. And then also because that's a good processor. It does everything I need to do, and I could certainly keep it around and test really low, but I just wanted to see what would happen. I was like, I just wanted to mess with Windows 10. When it comes to the hardware reasoning, there really wasn't much of one because the top tier is still pretty top tier, but the top tier that I have currently was free. The CPU, somebody had a CPU and was like, hey, I've decided to upgrade, and it hasn't even been plugged into a motherboard yet. Do you want the CPU for free? And I was like, yeah, it's a friend of mine in real life. And I've given them video cards. So they were like, hey, you gave me a 1080 Ti one time, and I have this CPU just sitting here. Do you want the CPU? And I was like, oh yeah, for sure, because I can just I can slot that in. And so we just traded. Yeah, that's why you always keep. I donate a lot, but I keep a lot of my hardware for trading with friends. Like they'll be all, oh yeah, I bought an extra SSD on accident. I'll be like, well, do you want this video card? That I have sitting around.
Like
I'll take that
Carrick's
SSD.
Bazaar. It's like,
oh, dude, yeah, it is. I've got a little tent above my head. It looks like Assassin's Creed. I've got some boxes over on the edge, and I'm just like, come to me. I will sell you stuff. No, it's a very, very cool friend of mine who has helped me out a couple times, and it was a nice little trade without having to upgrade. Do we have anything else? We're actually at 3 hours exactly. Do we have any other amazing things? Anybody in chat, if you have any questions, now's the time to throw them in before we wrap this one up. Oh, you guys were asked. BG Duck says, has Johnny or Silver ever been to the States?
I've never been. No, I would love to go someday. Yeah, it would be legendary.
That would be awesome. And Silver, you have. Where did you go?
I went like 22 years ago now with them a streak. I went to Florida on a road trip. We went from
Florida.
Yeah.
Any crocodiles? No.
We did see alligators, yeah. We did we went from Orlando to Miami to Key West, I think it was.
Can I just ask?
Back up again, I think.
Why Florida? I don't even understand. What was it? 'Cause it's crazy?
No, I mean Disney World was a huge.
Dude,
Kennedy Space Center, stuff like that. Were huge attractions that we were interested in.
Absolutely.
Universal Studios, stuff like that. So like the whole amusement
that's how they
area
get you
around Orlando was a huge
Orlando.
And of course there was Miami, and then there was Key West, which was a nice experience as well.
Did you go during spring break? Because if you did,
no,
you're probably
we did not.
still fighting off a ton of STDs.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
No. We managed to stay clear of that, thankfully. But yeah, we did, and we went kayaking at one point and got majorly sunburned. We went diving with dolphins at one point, locked ourselves out of our car, had to get a locksmith to get back in. Because we did actually end up in like a road accident. Like I was the designated driver, and we were driving, I think, near Miami or the outskirts of Miami along the highway, like 3-lane highway, and we were in the middle lane, and it was like raining cats and dogs. Like the rain was so thick, visibility was really, really poor, and there was a white van on the left lane, and he just changed lanes immediately right before an intersection, and he didn't signal or anything.
Of course, no.
But so I hit the brakes, and the car skidded out, and we just hit him like that. So we had to pull over.
So what you're saying is you shouldn't be the designated driver. I'm just joking. No, dude. I mean, turn signals aren't even a suggestion for a lot of people. They're just an extra thing that can go bad. No one will replace. It's weird. No, it would be cool if they came. Definitely would be hilarious if they came and we did something. I know Reg has visited Silver and Johnny. Or how did that go? Yeah. Because Reg has visited you. One of you guys twice, I think. Yeah, Silver twice. He's visited Johnny once because they have pictures.
To be fair, he kind of went here because he mainly went to visit Sweden for some inalienable reason, and then came here on the back end.
Reg. Deep down inside, Reg is a traitor. We all know it.
Yeah.
Right? Reg can't be trusted. Last thing we do here before we go is recommend a book, music, or movie of any kind. Does anybody have anything to recommend? I do. You want me to go first?
Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. I've been reading one of the best development explaining books I've ever read. It's Assassin's Creed 30th Anniversary. They go through every single Assassin's Creed and talk about the very moment they decided what they were going to do, character genesis, technical issues, sitting and watching Unity bug videos the day it came out, and the dire, horrible feeling of watching something like that occur. Why those occur. I found out why the bug for the clothing occurs in Unity for this video or for this book. It doesn't explain it's a technical book, but when you read it, I got to tell you guys, I think I've sold it to a couple people on our Discord already. It is one of the best books I've ever in my life read, because they go back and talk to Jade, who's left now. You know, she went to Google and she's somewhere else. I think she's working on a Star Wars game, if I remember right. I think she announced one of those. But they go back to the Genesis, man. And they go back to one of the only times that I can remember in history when a company gave more money for a game. And that is when they were talking about Assassin's Creed 2. And they went in to talk to, what's his name? Gilmore, the main guy of Ubisoft.
Yeah.
And they asked for a certain amount of money. They got ready to leave. And he called Jade Raymond back in and said, I believe in what you're doing. I'm going to double what you guys have. And that is how we got where we are. And it was fantastic. I mean, it is mind-blowing how much data for technical creation of games is in this thing that is supposed to be just a celebration of Assassin's Creed. So I would suggest it to anybody. It's not a super cheap book, but if you want to understand game development, that is I mean, they're pretty open about problems they've had, stupidity, smart things. It is a fantastic book. What about you guys? Do you have any music, movies, or books?
Well, I've been doing this Unreal 5 tutorial from Udemy. That's been really high quality. I did pay. Yeah, I did pay, but it was heavily discounted, and for like $10, I got like 13 hours of content, and they do it in a really good way, which is like, we're gonna teach you something here in like 10 minutes, and then you go away and practice it, to your heart's content. Like, go on and create a bunch of these or play with these. So it's in a really kind of easy to learn format. As we lose Silver there.
Oh, I'll check to see if he said something. Continue.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, the format is really good. It's very accessible, even if you're not a technical person. By the way, they do a great job with abstracting away, and then when they dive into the technical stuff, they give you some idea of what you will need to not be out of your depth. So yeah, Udemy, pretty great course so far.
Dude, it's awesome to hear you getting a chance from a company to do that. Our companies did it. They gave them 2 to 3 weeks once a year to just go nuts, hack, mess around, do whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah.
It's awesome to hear a company doing that. Silver, what do you got? I'm assuming you went to go get it, right?
Yeah, I did.
I knew it.
I have a graphic novel.
Hey, nice.
Thorgil?
Called Thorgal.
Thorgal.
This is this is probably the most popular fantasy series in Europe. It's gone pretty much from 1980 or like late 70s for like 30 years. It had a run. It's really, really good. Like, it's kind of meshes Viking fantasy with like Greek fantasy mythology and some like Flash Gordon type science fiction even. It's the art is really, really striking and amazing. Let me just try and see if I can move the camera a little to show you. If I can get away with that. Give me just a minute here.
Sure.
He just has to make sure to hide the slave cages he has in the back.
Yeah.
He's like, quit screaming. Go ahead.
In the meantime, I was reading a comic too, Shazam.
Oh, dude,
that was
really?
gifted by a friend. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome, man. I forget like how awesome comics are because they're just fully colored, right?
Yeah.
Because I read a few manga, which is basically Japanese comics, but they don't have colors, so that's pretty cool.
This is Thorgal.
Oh, nice.
Thorgal.
Yeah. And there he is fighting him.
Is this older? Is this like in the 80s? The art style.
This is the 80s, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And like the major inspirations are like clearly Conan the Barbarian and
very much so. Yeah, little Frank Franzette at times. Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's cool. Also, I want to finish up by making sure I read the super chat. SBZ, $2 super chat. Don't forget to pet your damn cat and dogs. And Jacob says, ACG, any recommendations for a power bank for Steam Deck, Ally, or Legion? The only one I would suggest is if you want to cover all bases, get one that's 65 watts or higher, because the Legion pretty much requires that and will not charge a lot of times if you don't get one that high. That'll be it for us. I want to say thanks, as always, to Johnny and Silver for showing up for the podcast. We will be back next Wednesday. I think we're trying to figure out what to do with the Wednesday podcast and the Friday podcast, where we put them, how I do it. Also, last but not least, thumbs this up. Please open up this as a video. Leave a comment. And if you can, leave a review on Spotify and iTunes. It is super helpful for the channel. Peace out, everybody. Have an awesome week, and be better people.
Take care.
Unless you're like Johnny. You can't be better. You can just be cuter. And that's barely. I just wanted to say that so that
Let's move on from there.
I just wanted to say it so people didn't think I was saying you were ugly or something like that. You know how, because we end the podcast on that, people would be like, what the fuck? Peace out, everybody.
See ya.
Cool.